We open in the palace in Usura that is dedicated to the royal.
We are not live yet.
Oh, okay.
I can see us.
I can see us and I can hear me talking.
I can see us, and
We are live now.
yeah, you probably need to refresh. Hi,
Hi.
everybody.
We're open. Hello, everybody. Okay. So we open on the grand palace of. Let me turn my volume down because I can hear myself. It's very distracting. Um, why, thank you. In the grand palace of Usura, 9 years ago, where a young Len, 14 years of age, has been called to the palace. He has been a peasant, although it is more than rumor. There has been many reasons that Len has been believed to be the illegitimate child of a noble. Not the least of which was that when he was 8, his eyes turned bright green. Um, Purium, unlike any other magic, is the gift of Matushka, given or drawn away at her whim, but it still follows noble lines more often than not. While Matushka often grants her gifts to peasants, she regularly and predictably grants it to the noble families. Um, and the turning of his eyes caused a bit of a stir. Um, what did Len's mother do? And what does young teenage Len think of his assignment? This is far from his home. He is from a district that I'm going to look up the name before I try to pronounce. So go ahead and tell us about your home, or tell us what Len is like at 14.
Len at 14 is a bit of a wild child, understandably at this point. The green happened when he was very young, so much of his life has been spent seeing things that nobody without his particular brand of magic sees, being able to do things they can't do, and not really having a teacher because Pyrium isn't really something that you can teach. It's something that you figure out. You make your own deals with the spirits of various animals. You see the world a different way. And that has made it very hard for him to focus on things that he doesn't really care about, like taxes and elocution and, you know, combing his hair and just all the things that it's rough to get a teenage boy to do anyway, but doubly so when that teenage boy, if he's really feeling bothered, can turn into a cat and just escape, or an owl, or what have you, let alone, his penchant to go hunting.
As a matter of the particular story ahead of us, I'd like to say that the cat has not yet come to you. They are fickle beasts.
That's fair.
You do.
Owl.
Yeah, an owl definitely. I think your bear was your first.
The bear was the first, but the bear has never been easy. The bear has only ever been an emergency thing for a very young child.
And I think the bear was probably the first one because it was a time when Len wandered out into the woods too dark, and he actually met like a Kodiak cub. And it was by the exchange of like the spirit skin that the Kodiak's mother did not tear Len apart.
Yeah.
But
Len met a friend. The friend happened to have fur and claws, but he understood his bear friend in a way he didn't always understand the other children.
Now you have come to the capital itself, and the rumors hadn't been floating around in your like village for very long when an emissary from the Nyas, who's like the equivalent of an Iron Prince in Eisen. Does that make sense? They each have their own domains. They're incredibly powerful. You are under the command of the Nyas. Let me get his name. One of the reasons I didn't set anything in Usura was because I am bad at this pronunciation, so just please bear with me. um, uh, oh crap, I didn't write down their last names anyway. So you're in the Draco is his name, um, and the Draco is from a line of Niases that are known for their butchery and their torturing, and he stands out as exceptional,
Exceptionally bad in that regard, or exceptionally good compared to
noteworthy.
his?
He has tortured peasants for like months on end. You know what I'm saying? At times when they've displeased him, and deliberately kept them alive, and made sure that their screams could be heard by their neighbors and stuff like that for months after rebellions and insurrections and stuff like that. Drakov is called the Butcher, and you are actually sent to the capital with his son. It was terrifying for about the first 5 minutes. Does that make sense? Vladimir actually seems to be somebody who is not in his father's shadow. Does that make sense? Or rather, is in his father's shadow, but would very much like to disappear into it. Vladimir's like, uh, there's a picture of him in the book, but I want to say like he looks like Vlad Tepes young. Does that make sense? As we kind of think
Yep.
of him from like Dracula music, like just long black hair. He's very handsome, but he's like incredibly shy. He's incredibly terrified of his father. He's a little sickly, um, and he's just sort of like grateful to have somebody to talk to that doesn't seem inclined to shout at him. Does that make sense? And he also knows Pyrium, so like they kind of have that to like bond over on the ride and stuff like that. He's used to most of the servants just turning faint and looking white the moment he talks to them, because Draco is not anybody that anything wants to serve, and Vladimir is better.
Yep. No,
um,
I get that. And Len would totally immediately like older brother or cousin this guy. It's
um,
just he's got a homie, a sickly, terrified homie, and he's gonna take care of him.
Vladimir is the Vladimir is also like in the bits of his own studies and stuff like that. He's working to learn Eisen, and it's during this trip, which is going to be like several weeks long. Usura is huge.
It is.
um,
And
and so
most
by
of
the
it is
time that they've
nothing.
arrived is the point where Len has like learned Eisen on a speaking level. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And parts ways with Vladimir, and like he'll see him around the court, he's sure, and is sort of introduced into um, the Gaius's court. At the time, we are this is the Gaius that Len simply thinks of as the old Gaius. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Because he's the Gaius that precedes Ilya. He's known to be exactly what Matushka wants in a Gaius. She always takes a peasant and raises them up, and they come to the role with the sort of knowledge of like the eccentricities and everything of the boyars and the Niases, and curbs them and keeps them in check. Does that make
Mhm.
sense? However, this Gaius has done something unlike any other, which is that he has asked Matushka for the right to have his son be the next Gaius, and he has proclaimed that Matushka has said that he would be. Um, that's largely over the course of like the next little while the result of his wife, who's a beauty from Eisen, which is part of the reason that it was insisted that like everybody be learning it, because the Nias's wife is an
Yeah.
extremely bitch, extremely vain Eisen woman.
Did you say extremely bitch? Because it sounded like you
Extremely
said oh,
rich and vain.
okay.
Sorry. Um, she is and she's not like a huge factor in court. She has adamantly refused to learn Usuran, but for somebody who's going to be a servant, and those I'm really sorry for those who heard bitch.
Okay.
I I will work on my dictation or my diction, but so the old Gaius is actually the one who called for lead. Does that make sense? As there is a policy of like every bastard of the realm, the Gaius takes to his court.
Mhm.
Um, and there's many reasons for that, like, but it's an old tradition. Um, and that's where Len is kind of like outfitted with servants' clothes, and begun to be taught like the etiquette and like how to disappear as a servant sometimes. And I imagine from everything we know of Len, he's not great at it.
He's not. He gets distracted. He wants to go hunt. He doesn't want to stand here filling pitchers for a bunch of people who think they're better than him, but he could turn into a bear and eat their faces. I mean, there's just
Um, there is the there's a little bit of kind of like him getting bounced around from like different responsibility to different responsibility. For at one point, the seneschal, which is sort of like what they're like the head butler, like the one who just sort of runs the entire palace, just like scoots him into the kitchen and is just like keep him out of trouble. Because Len has experience hunting and whatnot, the chefs quickly kind of start to teach him like how to. They take advantage of that he knows how to like skin things and butcher meat and stuff like that, and doesn't have much of a problem with it because he's been a hunter. Um, but also he still has to like occasionally get dishes, carry them distances. The nice thing about carrying dishes worth of food is that most of the time nobles will actually bother to like get out of your way. um, it is during this time that as he arrives, as he's kind of like finding his place and stuff like that, um, there is a new arrival. Um, Len had heard about it for weeks beforehand. Ilya is 7 years old at this point. He is a child who is told that he is going to be the new Gaius of Usura. He's going to be the first one ever to inherit the position, and he's been about as shitty as you might expect of a 7-year-old.
yeah, he is an absolutely
Um,
spoiled, rotten, entitled little shit biscuit.
yeah, and like the only distraction is that or like the only sort of like thing that makes it okay is that one, he's still a child. You know what I'm saying? And for the most part, most of the Niases aren't afraid to be like, "You are not the Gaius yet, little one," when he tries to pull
Yeah.
something on them. But for everyone else, um, he like will kind of boss people around just because he can and stuff like that. And one of the challenges for Len is learning how to kind of handle it as gracefully as possible with as little embarrassment as possible. Ilya is prone to temper tantrums and sort of uh, shouting himself red in the face and everything. Um, one of those temper tantrums was several months ago when he saw a portrait of an Eisen woman. She was 14, and he demanded that he marry her. 7 years old, right?
Okay,
The
Anakin.
the father, the old guys was like, no, but we'll call her here, reasoning that like everything else that Ilya has been interested in, his interest would fade after a few months, right? Because he's 7, he's just he's moving from one thing to another, and he he gets indulged a lot. Um, the the woman that steps out of the carriage is actually being escorted by her older brother. He wears the what Len has come to learn is like the actual uh, trappings of an Iron Prince.
Mm.
He has the arm of Drakenisen that is actually, um, or sorry, no, he has the helmet. He has a helmet that is made in the shape of a dragon's head. It looks like jaws and everything like that, and it is the actual armaments of the Imperator. It like the particular armament given to each Iron Prince is a mark of their station. So like Fauner Posen has the sword of the Imperator, and Trog had I think like the right arm, the non-Panzer hand arm. So you see, it's in the best and most exquisite work the Nibelung can do. And the man who has it like on his hip looks like he has no idea what to do with it or the rest of the Drakenisen he's wearing. He's in his 20s. He's kind of like goofy and charming. He's tall and like you can tell from a moment's glance that he's like peasant stock, right? He doesn't carry himself in the way he's clearly adjusting to his new role. And his daughter, or like sorry, his younger sister, Kathrinia, is the one who's been called. And the portrait that moved Ilya to demand that this is going to be my new wife is no match for the actual woman that's there. Well, young girl. Um, the she's breathtaking. She's also very shy. She looks like she just wants to like hide behind her older brother, and he just is kind of like he's hugging her, he's reassuring her. They're going back and forth in Eisen, and like, most everybody else seems, not to be picking up on it, but Lanny can overhear is she's like, do I have to do this? And her older brother's like, the Imperator himself asked you to come and entertain this proposition, and if there is a marriage, it's going to put Fischler in a better place than it could possibly imagine. Um, he squeezes her shoulder. He's like, I'm going to stay for a few days, he says, and after that, um, who knows? Maybe Ilya will have changed his mind. Um,
Can Len interject at this point, or do you need to keep going?
go right ahead.
Len would sidle up, and while everybody else is probably keeping their distance and starting to gossip, he'll introduce himself like, "Hi, I am Len Costin. I am a page here, and I will tell you, though it may cost me my life, you do not want this."
And you see Kithrinia kind of go a little pale at that. And, so, Prince Fischler looks concerned, but he nods. And he kind of says, "Thank you. Would you see us to our quarters?"
Of course, this way, please.
Oh. Yeah. The she kind of she looks disturbed. She looks terrified. Like she is also learning to be a noble. A year ago she was a fisherman's little sister.
Mm-hmm.
And
How did she end up as a portrait on the wall, or is that something we'll cover later?
because like when her older brother became an Iron Prince, she became like a duchess effectively. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And a portrait was done because she was considered exceptionally beautiful, and then it got shipped around. That part isn't exactly known. But you overhearing that she was personally ordered here by the Imperator, that the Imperator said this is going to happen, suggests that there's a lot of sort of wheels already in place, and that Eisen is looking to make a long-term alliance with Usura. Kithrinia begins to like ask for Len by name over the next few days. Like every time she needs something and stuff like that, it's like and the chefs are like, okay, you're just her page now. She didn't come with any staff. She didn't come with any servants. She is shy and she's sweet and she's alone in a court which largely isn't interested in her. Does that make sense? The first meeting with the Gaius goes well. The Gaius is impressed with her. You know what I'm saying? She's humble, she's modest. These are all things that impress me. He's a peasant as well, and he speaks to her in Eisen because his wife is Eisen, and like all of that puts Kithrinia at a little bit of ease. Ilya is an absolute brat, but like he's totally enamored of Kithrinia. Like even the slightest sort of like look of disapproval, and Ilya like behaves. He doesn't behave for anyone.
I do not trust this. Len, through the whole thing, will be attentive, he will be supportive. But even at 14, he has a keen sense of danger. And he knows full well that being seen to be a little too friendly with the visiting princess, that, Joffrey Light is very interested in, is not healthy for his long-term prospects for continuing to breathe.
Yeah, there's one point, where Ilya is playing with Kithrinia, and he's playing like 7-year-old games, like I'm going to be the general, and like off to rescue the princess, and she's to play the princess, and all of that sort of stuff, and like he enrolls Len into playing, the evil general who has her captured in a tower, sword fighting against a child, etc. And then like when one of his hits doesn't land. Like Len isn't even dumb enough to like bop him with a play sword. But like he does, like parry too long enough that like Ilya gets frustrated, and Ilya begins to like temper tantrum, and Kithrinia in Usuran kind of like please my lord, he's only trying to make you a better warrior. And Ilya calms down. Like what would might have been a, demanding, she's not afraid to like sort of stand up to him. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Like she indulges and indulges, but she's really good babysitter actually. And clearly like got some experience with children his age, even if not ones of that power.
Mhm.
Um the During this time there are frequent visits from the other Niases. I'm going to just go through the list of them just to give you sort of an idea. Len meets Draco face to face as he spends most of his time here. He's a terrifying guy. Like if Len embodies everything that's kind of like sweet about a bear, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh,
Mhm.
big and fuzzy and cuddly. Like Draco is a raging Kodiak in the depths of winter. He's terrifying personally. Um, and the other kind of Nias that keeps company with Draco is named Markov, and he's called the Old Wolf. And in a lot of ways, they seem like Big Spike and Little Spike, or the little dog. But like Markov has a cunning that most people don't really see. He in many ways is kind of able to like turn aside Draco's raw rage.
Mhm.
Um, there's Staver, who is Staver E. Vladimirovich. I have the other names written down. Markov is Markov Vinovgorod. Um, and oh, the other thing about Marco's son Alexei is very pretty and very like there's there was at one point one of the uh noble or one of the servants seeing Len like serving Alexei something to eat, like made a comment to him later of like he looks like he could be your brother. Um
Yes.
Alexei is handsome and cunning, and uh he's like 16 at this point, and he's already a terror to the female servants. Like it's suspected that he might already have like an illegitimate child or two of his own at this point. Um, so all right, there's Staver, who is like in his 70s. He is just odd. They call him mad behind his back. He like is frequently kind of like messing with small clockwork devices and stuff like that. He seems absolutely consumed and obsessed with them. He gives Katharina at one point like a nesting egg. But each of the nesting eggs is like unlocked by a clockwork lock on the outside of it.
Nice.
And he doesn't say a word. It's not a formal presentation or anything. It's just like, here you go. And then he walks off. And like Katharina is like puzzling through it for months afterwards, like fascinated by it. There's Tamara, who's very young. Um, and she's recently assumed the role of Nias. She is idealistic. She's also cursed. Like she's not allowed into the public court because the curse on her is that nobody can speak a lie in her presence. And that sort of brought court to a halt. So now she has to stay in a room and people visit her, or
Yep.
if she's coming into the court, she's announced. And lastly is Boren, who's he's just sort of self-absorbed and greedy and opportunistic, and like nobody really trusts him, but like he's so distrusted that most people don't really give him the chance to do anything untoward. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? Um, the It's in the middle of kind of like what has become a normal play session. There has been uh, Len is aware that he's growing in such a way that many of the female servants have started to kind of look at him in different ways. Some of that wildness has become something a little bit more, but nothing is more dangerous than the growing way that Katharina is looking at Len. He's a constant companion. He's someone she can talk to. She's easily sort of like talking about her hopes to go back to Eisen and see her brother again. And like the biggest thing is that she feels safe with him and she feels comfortable with him. And at the particular age she's at, like that's the most dangerous feeling that she can have for
Yep.
someone.
At this point, Len, there, despite trying to be careful and keep his distance, he's also a teenage boy with a almost inhumanly beautiful princess his age who constantly wants him around. That's a hard spell to fight.
And she has she is in no way like actively trying to seduce him or anything like that. It's just like she wants, and she's afraid to like put her want into like anything. Um, but there is a point where it's kind of like it's late in the evening and he's like about to kind of leave for the night and whatnot, where she just like steps forward and she comes within a hair's breadth of kissing him. Does that make sense? Like
Mhm.
not going that final little hairline, but just like the sort of the moment that's like begging for him to like make a choice and finish it. Does that make sense?
Yep. And he does make a choice, and he makes the right, most painful choice he's ever made up until that point. Um, and he does not kiss her back.
Um, and her
He probably
her
can't hide the fact that he wants to, but he just does not take that step.
um yeah, and she accepts it. Like you can tell she's like hurt, but not in like a way that she takes it personally. Does that
Yep.
make sense? Like she absolutely understands the choice and like what that would have put him in, like danger wise. Um, and the next day she's a little more distant. You know what I'm saying? She's just sort
Mhm.
of like she's playing with Ilya and not quite like looking at him in the same way or anything like that. Like the look is still there, but what she's doing is avoiding looking at him.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Hmm.
And then in the midst of like Ilya is kind of he's like trying on new coats. He's trying to find he's like growing like a weed. So like he has a new coat like every 2 weeks.
Of course.
And asking for Kithrinia's opinion on the color and the cut. And you see him just kind of like he goes stock still and straight. And then he's staring at the mirror and you watch as his hair turns white from scalp on back. Um, and you know what that means because the white hair is the mark of Matushka and the mark of the Gaius being chosen. And it means the old Gaius is dead.
Well,
And
then,
you see Ilya just, he's sort of like staring, and for a moment you can see it's the very first time you've seen an image that is Matushka, but like not a drawing or statue or representation. You see Matushka in the mirror say something to the boy, and you see him immediately like burst into tears and his eyes turn green. Um, and then you hear the sounds of fighting and death coming throughout the palace. You hear like
Orlok,
shouting and
voltage,
fighting.
stuff against it.
Um,
Len is immediately going into as much of a defensive Papa Bear mode as he can, even if he has to pick up the Gaius bodily and the new Gaius bodily and shove him into the bathroom, the most defensible room. He'll grab the closest thing to a weapon, and he's just
and
at the door.
Kathinra in Eisen is like, "What is happening?" And Ilya is just like sobbing. Does that
The
make sense? He's like,
Gaius
"Why does
is
she hate me? What did I do?" Um,
the Gaius is dead. Long live the Gaius. Please
and he's
get him into
like,
that room.
"Daddy," he tries to like go for the door, and you see, like, just for a moment, he's not this little brat. He's a child who's lost his father and has just been told something heartrending. And so when the door comes down and a massive black Kodiak bears on the other side of it, um, like you see uh, Draco shift into like half bear, half human, like all of, and you can see blood like literally dripping from his claws. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
You know, you don't even have to have your like keen senses, but you can smell the Gaius's blood on his claws. And next to him is Markov. Uh, we just had a second Bison join. Is that going to throw off our images? Or are we good?
I got it covered.
Oh, we lost a bison.
Yeah, I
Oh,
got
okay.
it covered. It's fine.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, cool.
Well, I guess this is the first time
Oh.
Len's going to like feel
He
like
crashed, yeah.
bear is warranted, even if he's not going to be that big.
Yeah. He is not that big, and he is not as skilled as he might be. Um, he I'm not gonna roll its background. He gets the shit kicked out of him. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
absolutely.
And like to the point of like near death. Does that make sense? And watches as like Markov like tears open the door, or Dracov tears open the door, and Markov goes in and just plucks up Ilya and grabs Kathinra by the back of the neck. um Len himself, still a child, is like, taken to the dungeons. You see Markov, you know kind of looks down at like Len as he's like near unconscious, the boy who looks so much like his own son. And Markov deliberates for a moment and says, "Send for a physician. If he lives, call me." Um,
Oh,
when Len recovers, he is uh, bandaged and taken to the Novgorod estates out in the country. That's where his training begins, and it's as a servant to the Naias that he knows betrayed the Gaius. They taught him to be a spy. They taught him to be an infiltrator. They taught him to fight. And the training was not kind. Markov saw a use in him. Um, you hear stories of Kathinra being propped up as like the acting Gaius while Ilya is away from the court. And you hear stories about the kennel that Ilya is kept in and raised amongst hungry dogs and beaten and tortured on a daily basis. In his absence, Draco and Markov rule Usura, and it is the hardest 9 years Usura has had in centuries of suffering.
yep. And along the way, Len would have tried at least once to get to Ilya. He might not be his favorite person, but nobody deserves what that kid is going through, and he is the Gaius. Matushka herself made it so. He saw it happen. You don't get much more. This is the king than that. It's better than a sword from a stone.
Um, so I'm going to do that in a future flashback. And I'm
Okay,
going to say that there's going to be something that happens about that, but that he doesn't successfully get to the Ilya. But
of
there
course.
is a thing that's going to result from that. What does happen is that 9 years later, Ilya is taken free by Tamara, the young woman who was kind of, the cursed one who could only speak the truth.
Mhm.
Um, she comes she comes to the court with her full court, bringing Ilya. Um, Len is like brought to the court at that point. Um, and Ilya is broken free. And if they could have turned a boy any harder, there's not a more effective way to do it. The Gaius Ilya that is taken out of torture, his first act is to throw Markov to the dogs that he was kenneled with and have him torn apart in front of the entire court, in front of Alexei. Um, Draco remains in his own lands and doesn't answer the Gaius' summons and dies before he can be brought to court, before he can be punished. Instead, Vladimir arrives in his place, still kind of like a nervous, shaking young man, who is in his father's shadow. And Len is also brought. Um, uh, Alexei, Vladimir, and Len, because of Len's resemblance to Alexei and possible heritage, Ilya orders all of them before him, like clearly intending to decide how they're all going to die. And that is when Kathinra steps in. She offers to accept his proposal to be his wife if he is willing to show mercy in this moment. to his enemies and to make Usura a better place. And she fastidiously does not look at Len as she makes the offer. And Ilya accepts. He sends Len to go and serve the Gaius in a way that he will decide at a future telling, and commands Alexei and Vladimir back to their dioceses.
And Len respects her choice too, and also does not really look at her.
Yeah.
That's
she passes him on the way out of the court, and as she does so, her hand brushes his, and he feels like a kerchief that's like pressed to his hand.
he lost that along the way, but that's a different story.
When he had looked at it, though, there was a 14-year-old girl's lipstick on the inside of it that was folded over. She's held for 9 years.
Yeah. Didn't affect Len at all. No. Yeah. No relationship problems after that or anything. Nope.
So that's where we're gonna close the open. It's been a long one, I'm sorry. But there was a lot to go over.
There is a lot to go over.
So he's lost the kerchief since then. But one of the things that he's known is that Kathrinia, if anything, probably kept Usura together during those 9 years.
Oh no,
because she made sure that there was like food brought to the people who needed it. She made sure that the things that needed to happen that only a peasant really understands must happen were happening.
Yeah.
So reviews are coming in for the play, and we will get to them right after we introduce everybody. So,
okay, everybody, thanks for coming to Shadow of the Wachtturm. We're all dead now. Thanks. Bye.
Why are we all dead?
We're dead of feels, Siosa.
Yeah, that was a lot of feels.
That was a whole summer romance movie in one go.
Oh my god.
I'm still good.
Chat's like, I agree with chat. What the fresh hell is happening here?
Yeah, we just got to hear more of one's backstory. That's what's happening here.
That's what's happening here.
Yeah. A full season of Game of Thrones worth of intrigue.
Well, yeah, so Len has a complicated backstory. We've gotten to see some of it. I had a thing that I was going to say. Thank you, everyone. Welcome to Shadow of the Wachtturm, 7C Let's Play, and set in the great lawless city of Freeburg. Our art is courtesy of Hero Forge, first edition 7C, Unsplash, and Be Funky. Henri, you told me that there was something else we need to credit this time, right?
No, you just did. You're good.
Okay, cool. Our producer is one of the moderators of Dirty 20 Gaming, the delightful and compassionate Gloriosa, and our lore master of the series is the beautiful and benevolent Sindra. Before we get started, I wanted to give a content warning. We can apparently pack an entire season of Game of Thrones feels into 40 minutes. As well as, while the spirit of 7C is swashbuckling adventure and shadowy intrigue, the story will deal with mature themes, including death, loss, suicide, and grief. Eisen, our setting, is recovering from a 30-year civil war over religious differences. They make it dark sometimes, and there's no shame in bowing out. It's not a place your head can go at the moment. So without further ado, I'm going to have our savvy swashbucklers introduce themselves. Starting with Len.
Hi, folks. It's me. You found me. Bat Cow here, your friendly neighborhood menace and poster of terrible, creepy food memes on our Discord, which you should join. It's a lovely place. Everybody else is very nice. And then there's me. You can find me here currently on Sundays playing Len Bare Naked Costin. You'll find out what that means later, or maybe you won't. Besides that, right now, you can't find me in any other games, which is kind of weird for me, but it is how it is. I'm sure I'll end up in another one sometime. Otherwise, you're not really going to find me much of anywhere else because social media sucks the life out of you. Over to Rory.
Hey everybody, I'm Rory. I'm here tonight playing our fun, wonderful soldier boy. There we go. Hans Ulrich. Glad we're bringing that bit back around.
It never left.
It never left. We just left for a couple of weeks, but we're back, which is so hype. I'm only here on this fine Sunday evening playing this fine game with these wonderful people. Aside from that, outside of this fun, friendly game, you can find music I make under the stage name DJ Ricker on SoundCloud mainly because most distributors are not great anymore. And I've had this whole bit of being like, hey guys, guess what? I'm going to stream eventually. And I have a new job now. So that completely throws a wrench into any plans I previously had. So I'm completely reworking the theoretical schedule I have.
It'll happen eventually.
It'll happen eventually. It still will happen eventually. The other problem is OBS is a beautiful piece of shit sometimes. But yeah, that's my obligatory yapping. Let's go to Bison.
That's me. Hi. I am Bison_Stonefist. Tonight I am playing Sir Gav of the Broken Zoom, our back alley Batman. Other than that, I'm going to be here 3 nights a week this week, hopefully. On April Fools, 4, duh. On April Fools, I am, not a joke, going to be running the Cyberpunk Red Campaign Carnage Heights. Content warning, drugs. On Thursdays, we are just kicking off Deviant Paradox. It's a great little City of Mists game, and I play Garrett. Oh God, what's going on? Sakes, our fresh-eyed little freshman who is absolutely freaking terrified of what's going on. And on Saturday, we will be starting a new game of Starforged. I believe we're calling it Starsworn. And I'll be playing Calvin Scooter Hobbs, our freighter pilot. Pilot in quotation marks. You'll see what I mean. And, if you go watch on Saturday. Let's go to Sans.
Hey. It's like 3 things off my desk in one go while trying to switch over to my notes. Thank you, Scar.
Do I need the technical difficulties screen?
No, not yet. The fact that I just found out about that as well.
There's part of me that wants it to just be emotional distress, technical difficulties inbound. I'm gonna shut up.
Hey y'all, my name is Sarah. I go by Sans on the Discord. You can find me here 3 times a week. On Tuesday as Magic Broken Heart of the Team Silverlock. I'm keeping that forever. In the Cyberpunk Red Carnage Heights game. I'm now the druggie. In the Thursday game, I am the DM or narrator for the City of Mist campaign of Deviant Paradox. And here I am Rosa Nix, the horrid woman. Yeah, you'll see what happens to her because I don't even know anymore.
Oh, horrid. Okay.
Horrid. Yeah, because that's what
That's
Scar
not
called
what
her.
I heard.
Yeah, there goes my accent again. Thank you. Other than that, you can find me working with the Scar Adventure on stuff and things that'll come out eventually over on Tango Productions. Let's go to Ruth.
Hi.
What games are you here for?
I know how this goes. I'm not having another you found me moment. I'm not making a new bit Kyle can do. He's got one's enough. I am here on Tuesdays as Exit. The needle and thread of the group, except people keep cutting the thread as I'm sewing, and we never have our shit together. That was a really weird analogy. I'm so sleepy.
It was an accident. That's all I'm gonna say. It was an accident.
Yeah, but it happened.
Yeah.
Blame Red Death.
Eventually, I will be on the Deviant Paradox game on Thursdays. Have not made my character yet. Things have been happening. So there's that. And I'm also here on Sundays today. Sorry, just got whiplash. That was what happened. Who was I? Today as Runa, also known as Sparky. And I'm gonna send it to Scarred.
Hello, I am the Scarred Adventurer. You will find me here on Sundays playing Arthur. I slept with what again? Wolf. On Tuesdays, you will find me as Red Death, the assassin that apparently has a lot of backstory important characters that can be brought in randomly. Thank you so much for letting me do that. Otherwise, you'll find me on Thursdays as Warren. Welcome to my Wonderland, Lang. It's got a Cheshire smile. That's all I can say at the moment. It's exciting. I'm looking forward to it. Otherwise, you'll find me working with the wonderful Tangor Productions to bring you lots of fun and awesome things. My migraine is doing terrible things to me, so if I suddenly turn off all the lights, you will know why. And it will just be dark and people will be confused. So get ready for that. And I'm going to pass it over to our wonderful Gloriosa, because I believe that is the last person that needs to go.
Hi, everybody. I am Blaze of Gloriosa, also known as Glory. I am here and only here for the moment, and I am here on Sundays and only Sundays for the moment, at least on camera. I do produce for Thursdays. It's a glorious amount of fun, actually. I lurk in the Discord, and then tonight I will be playing your resident noblewoman, although I think Len has taken that over, actually, at the moment.
Len the noblewoman?
Len the noblewoman, yes.
He does look good in a dress.
He does look good in a dress. He looks super good in a dress. So yeah, resident noblewoman and satire rabble-rouser, object of mediocre desire, I don't know, just here, still trying to find her way. Anyway, that's me now.
Still trying to find her house.
She has given up on finding her own house and has crashed with hotness, okay? She's just embraced it. So she's staying with Anjay now.
I misunderstood. Crashed with hotness and thought that just means you're couch surfing until you find someone who is uninterested.
My thought was that doesn't narrow it down any.
It's Anjay.
Mm-hmm.
Siosa, how are you doing?
I'm good. So in addition to
Are you feeling
running
better?
Shadow of the Wachtturm on Sundays, I am. I have been down and out for the last 2 weeks, which is why we've had no Shadow of the Wachtturm. Last week, I was capable of sitting upright and not coughing for 5 minutes at a stretch, and I thought that meant I was capable of running game, and turns out that was not a great idea. But before that, I was worse, so, don't get whatever I had. It was not COVID. It was also not strep, which was what the doctor was able to narrow down. And my lovely wife is selling me out in chat even as we speak.
That's what wives are for.
As well, on Friday, I play Anchors Away, the mate lot of the Up the Creek game. And with that, I'm going to get us going. So we're picking up from where we left off. There's still going to be downtime because, like what has happened over the last week, um, the Bear House has had reviews streaming in and has had a sold out floor every night since its opening night for 2 weeks. It is the longest, like, it's not just like the longest run, but like it is to the point where, like, honoring amongst the crowd, you have seen like packs of Montaigne nobles that have portayed all the way from Charus to like watch the show. And sure, Montaigne might not be the most beloved place in the world right now because it's like invading two different nations and stuff like that. But their nobles are not afraid to drop some gilder when they enjoy what they're seeing. um, so normally, like over the course of a week, there would be like 500 gilder that would be brought in. The new income is an average of 1,500 a week. But because of the opening night and the immediate success of it and the outrageous roll that y'all made, there's like 20,000 extra gilder that you guys have brought in. Most of it in tips because the Bear House is just still really cheap, really easy for most people to get into. There were talks about like raising the rights and ticket prices and stuff like that, and they're like, maybe eventually, but for now, we want to keep it a people's theater. So, um, they're honoring the you awake in a very warm bed with an arm around your waist. And there's the kind of like there's the little sound that you've come to associate with like Porte magic. You know what I'm saying? That kind of like yeah, it sounds like flesh ripping, but like when it's on a smaller scale, it's not so bad. In this case, it's sort of muffled by the bag. And as you like kind of check on it because you know what it means, you see that your Aunt Jemay has sent a review all the way from Montaigne with the words "Glad to see you applying yourself" written on it. And Anje kind of, she puts her chin on your shoulder and she's like, "What's that?"
It's a note, a review. Is it in Montaigne or is it in Eisen or?
It is in Montaigne and it is meant for Charus
audiences.
The Free Thought Society is sort of like what's a good like modern parallel of like when there's like an alt-right group or something like that, and then there's some public facing group that everybody sort of knows is acting as their front, but they don't actually technically have any ties to terrorism, so they're okay. The Free Thought Society is kind of like that. They're known to be tied to the last year, but none of them have been known to actually do anything. So cop vibes from them or from me?
No.
Anyway, their review is meant to bring Montaigne audiences to see it, specifically those with Porte who would be able to arrive quickly in Freiburg. You are welcome to read it if you want.
So hang on, I muted on stream for that comment, so I'm making sure everything's unmuted again. Okay. So she's gonna go ahead and kind of read it to Anje, and then later on probably she's going to translate it for Rosa, and for whoever else wants to be involved in hearing it. More fun than beheading an emperor. Revolutionary entertainment, a work of satire so sublime that it will be studied for generations to come. The music is moving, the actors, female, every one of them, are sensuous and beautiful, their skills modest, but their ambitions breathtaking. Rancorous and unforgiving of the splendid Duke of Shantyhem, its porcine antagonist stands no chance against the choir of Freiburg's finest. See for yourself a seminal event, and Sure to, sorry, I'm having trouble parsing that sentence. See for yourself, a seminal event and sure to exact influence for decades to come. The Free Thought Salon.
Anjay, raises an eyebrow and she says, "That seems glowing. Is there some subtext in Montaigne that I'm missing?"
My aunt is an instigator, is what the subtext is there.
So you come by it honestly.
Mm.
She kind of she smiles and she pushes herself out of bed and starts to circle around it towards where her clothes are.
Honorine is definitely watching every single step.
And Anjay is like aware and just sort of like enjoying it.
Yeah.
She says, "How does it feel to be the most celebrated director in Freiburg at the moment?"
I had nothing to do with that play, and you can't convince me otherwise. In public, anyway.
She gives a smile. And, she kind of looks at as she's like starting to dress, like there's sort of like she's picking between like dresses and some of like the suits that she has. She has like hose and coats and the like that are definitely like more masculine design. She says, "I did promise Wilma that I would be stopping by to take a shift watching over her."
You should wear the blue one. It looks nicer on you.
Is she gesturing to like a suit or a dress, out of curiosity?
A suit, actually.
Okay. And she moves towards it. She says, "Do you have plans for the day?"
I am going to probably check in with the others and make sure that they're all still alive and kicking. I also kind of want to check in. At the Playhouse, and so I think she's actually got a little like studio space in there, or she's squirreled some away somewhere else. I'm not sure where she would have it, but she's like, I'm probably gonna spend some time, carving today and whatnot.
She says, "There's some workshops on the campus if you'd like me to get you permission to make use of them."
Is the show completely over?
No, it's still running.
Okay.
It's still making money, so it's still running, and they haven't written something to replace it yet. So,
and she's gonna like turn it over, turn the paper over in her hands, and kind of study it, and just sort of be like, maybe I'll think about it.
She says, "Well, I'll swing by the Playhouse late tonight then. She says, maybe I'll catch this show that everyone was talking about."
You really should. I've heard it's really good.
She kind of smiles and she's kind of like slipping the last of like the coat on and stuff like that, and she leans over and kneels and gives Honorine a kiss, and she says, "I've seen it twice already. You did fantastic."
Yeah,
she says, "Feel free to linger naked in my bed as long as you like." She looks for the door.
Yeah, she's gonna just sort of like straighten Anjay's collar and then just sort of like lean back and be like, "I think I will. This is the most relaxed I've been in weeks."
Anjay kind of like, "You're welcome," and she calls from the door. Cutting over to Gav. Gav's kind of spending time between the Playhouse itself and the Hall of Records, right?
Yeah.
There's been like more than one kind of late night reading session, which I imagine has turned into a late night cuddling and sleeping over session.
I'm sure they've
Um,
probably found the largest couch in the Hall of Records and
uh,
like surreptitiously moved it.
um, yeah, she Hannelore did her very best to help, and it was kind of endearing, but like moving the very largest couch was easier with just Gav in the cart.
He tries.
uh, but yeah, and even the couch is like a little bit small for the pair of them. So she went and she like got like one or two ottomans and kind of used them to extend the end of it so that Gav's feet didn't go off of it. um uh but there's kind of like a knocking from the door. Things haven't really progressed beyond like the cuddling and kissing and reading, you
Mhm.
know. Um the uh but as there's the knock at the door, Honolulu kind of like, oh, the hole isn't open yet, but she still, goes to see who it is.
Mhm.
She kind of quickly throws on like a dressing robe and everything to be like appropriate. And,
Yeah.
um,
Gav puts his shirt on and, slowly follows.
um, and the when the door opens, she doesn't seem to recognize who it is, but Gav recognizes Guy.
Oh,
Uh,
that's the artist, right?
yes. Um, he says, I was told I could find
Ervile, I apologize I have not been around lately. It's been very busy, you see.
you. I have noticed that. He says, ever since a tree sprouted in Vinerhard, it seems that chaos has broken out across the city. Um, but I have this for you, he says, that I'm intending to have published in the Freeburg Gazette. He says, but I wanted to. I know that the Bear House is something of your place of residence and a project of yours, and I wanted to make sure that it was all right with you.
Um, Gav looks at it's written, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sort of hands it to Hannelore. It's like, could you help me with this, please?
She says, yeah. Do you want to sound it out, or you want me to read it to you?
Read it to me. I'd like to know what it is.
Okay. Um, It opens with, for years, the Playhouse has served as a place to get a cheap drink, a cheap laugh, and an eye full of fine beauties. I have never patroned it before, quite foolishly. I never believed something so garish as burlesque opera could provide genuine entertainment. The idea of being caught enjoying it was scandal, to say the least. I must admit, I am among those who looked down my nose at it, but was cajoled to come see their most recent production by a woman whose taste and discretion is incomparable. Yes, you, Gertrude. I laughed, I wept, I raged. A day later, I still have the chorus from Hunger's Knot in my head. You owe it to yourself to see it. If you have ever laughed behind your hand at the so-called performers there, you owe them apology. Please accept mine.
Gav is very impressed. He's like, I am sure that the performers would be very, very pleased to read this. And I am honored that you appreciate my friend's play.
Says, I do. I have something else for them as well. My apology is not just words or the review. And he hands like a painting tube to Gav. Says that is for the patron. That is for the Playhouse.
He,
They're welcome to hang it or sell it as they like.
he takes a look at it. It's like, I do not think money will be a problem. I believe they will be very appreciative of this. And he sort of goes to look at it to just kind of get a good.
It, so the thing that he loves to paint is like landscapes and stuff like that, and it is actually the Playhouse itself from a rooftop looking at it with like throngs of people around it at every side trying to get in.
Gav's smile is warm and genuine, and he looks to Herr Weil and he's like, "Thank you. I will be sure that this gets to the Playhouse very soon." Expect to see it in the place of honor, my friend.
He says, we should have another painting session when you have the time.
Ah,
He
when I
says,
have time.
he says, I would also like your consideration for something. He says, for quite a long time, I have been supporting the orphanage here in Freeburg. I was wondering if at some point the Playhouse would be willing to make a donation to help the orphans there and to expand. Yeah, you
I
don't owe
will
me an answer now. I
I
simply
will
wish to
ask, and I honestly he's like, I never thought this would be something I would ever be thinking of. Catching
I
rats
understand.
does not a rich man make.
I understand there are many children in Freeburg who owe you their safety, at least as many as those are in the orphanage.
It is always important to take care of the little ones.
Um, he smiles and says, "Indeed, it is our greatest responsibility." Um, I should go.
Danke.
And he
I
turns
will.
and goes. You hear him kind of like humming "Hunger's Not" as he heads away.
Fucking his head.
Like, and it kind of like under his breath, like, again, cursing the earworm that won't get out of his head.
I know how he feels.
um,
Go ahead.
um, so I'd like to cut to Rosa and Hans, who have been. It's been a busy time, kind of getting Rosa moved into her new place. And I assume Hans has been helping that in and amidst, So, um, the the young lady Adelaide, that is the madam of the brothel, has kind of taken to like bringing things to Hans on a regular basis. It's usually just sort of like an excuse to like drop by and you know do some kindness or another, but it's not like romantic. It's just like, here's a sandwich, here's something to make sure that you're doing all right. um
Making sure he remembers
she's
to eat like at least 2 meals a day.
and she's kind of aware of like the precarity of his situation and stuff like that. And so at one point, there's somebody who, like, Hans overhears her discussing with uh a client, you know um and the client like seems almost like jealous. You know what I'm saying? Like, are you, I thought you didn't take clients. And she just sort of like laughs it off. She's like, I couldn't take him as a client. I need to be able to walk to get around. And just like leaves it at that. And like the next time Hans kind of sees that particular like citizen on the streets, he's just like eyeing Hans like, it can't be that.
Can't be that.
Those pants are too tight. He can't be.
um like for Hans, it's just like he realizes that like there is some guy on the street definitely checking out his package before the guy sort of realizes what he's doing and like turns beet red and practically runs off. But so she's both sort of like acting as like a protection of his reputation and never outright stating things, just implying. And but also making sure that he eats on the days that he doesn't get very much rest and stuff like that. She kind of frequently will just like check in and like bring a pillow or something like that for his office. um there's I want you to make two strategist rolls with your wits.
Okay.
Cover the last 2 weeks.
Strategist. You said strategist and wits?
Mhm.
Right. That's 13 for one.
You can do better.
Oh, I can do worse actually, and then a 4 for the second one. Had an off week in there.
Yeah, they're really hard nights. Like there are nights that like some of the deaths aren't just like quick, they're protracted. Yildirim's, there's nights where like you're the last one standing as you watch every single one of the men that are under your command die. And it is sort of with the last one, that like 4, that you like wake with not just like the hangover of like lack of sleep, but also the pain of like an intense headache, and just like you can tell that your entire body was like in stress the entire night. Does that make sense? Like your muscles are sore, everything is fatigued. And Rosa, like you can see this. Like when Len was like sleepy because he'd been up for like 3 days, it was noticeable. This is a different deep fatigue.
Hans, are you all right?
Sorry. One more time.
Are you all right?
Just a little bit underrested this week.
What?
You know, a lot of work to do, keeping aspiring gangs in check, keeping the rabble out of the streets at the wee hours of the morning, keeping obviously the Jennies somewhat under protective bit of like protective surveillance, I guess. Keeping some of the undesirables away from their place of work.
All right, I don't have much to move in. You can go rest.
It's kind of a losing battle to try and get any sleep now.
Why?
When the night comes, I'll be able to rest again. Hopefully, sleep a bit more soundly.
Please take care of yourself.
I will. I will. Don't worry about me. I do try. I do try my best to keep up with the basic needs. Just gets to be.
Sleep is one of those basic needs.
That is one that I'm not quite so good at.
The way your neck just cracked.
And it was perfectly in character. This is so easy for me because I somehow slept horribly last night and my neck hurts. So this comes really easily.
God.
This has just been my day.
Yep.
He's so method.
Exactly.
Stop with the method.
This feels terribly like we've all been there. Am I right, people?
Yeah. This is just kind of like this is just a relatable moment.
There's a throat clearing, and Adelaide like is kind of in the doorway of Rosa's new place. She has like a bunch of blankets like over her arms. She's like, I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. I just brought a housewarming.
Grazie.
And she kind of looks to Hans. She's like, you still haven't slept?
Still?
I mean, it comes and goes. Very much
Adelaide,
dodging around what is happening. He does not want to talk about it.
Adelaide, kind of without missing a beat, looks to the other woman in the room and like, he's been absolutely like this for weeks. I don't think he's sleeping more than a few minutes a night. And she like offers the blankets. The blankets are like they're like hand quilted. They're really nice and warm. They would probably fetch a decent price. She says these are from the girls at the leaky jobs.
Grazie. I'll maybe keep one in, I guess. I don't exactly know what I'm going to do in my new shop.
She says, oh, you have clients. She kind of smiles. She says, you have clients open, like ready the moment you open your doors.
Grazie.
She says, this may sound an unusual question. Can you tell if someone's with child?
Can Striga do that? I don't actually know.
Sometimes, yes.
All right, yeah, let's roll for
Oh.
it. She would see if she can.
Crazy.
It would be a new
Um,
thread of fate, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Second the heartbeat starts.
I'm not going to give it an exact time at which she could be able to do that. But like, like it's certainly probably not going to be like conception or something like that. Like,
Mhm.
Yeah, I
um,
just realized what I said would probably kick a whole new can of worms, and I apologize.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh God.
that's why I was just
I
like,
thought about
Holy
that for
crap.
a second. Holy shit.
Wow.
I
Actually,
totally
I was
missed it.
about to
Can
start
someone
a
fill me
fight.
in?
so yeah, without going into that whole thing, let's put it this way: of that, it's a fate witch. If there's a child that's destined to be in the world, they have a fate that exists at the moment of their conception. Does that make sense? And if they're not, then they're not. Um, so like Rosa can tell not only if like there will be a child, but like that the child will live through childbirth. She can also tell if they won't.
Mhm.
Oh.
Oh no.
Ooh.
Okay.
Cursed
Wow.
with knowledge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is what
And it's specifically like the death threat of that it's sometimes known that like a mother or a child will have that strand before their birth
Mhm.
because death during childbirth is very much a part of the time of this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So
um
Arcana plus wits.
she kind of like, oh no, it's not me. I just some of the girls wanted to know.
Oh, see, I can. It's iffy, but I can try.
She kind of laughs. It's like it's been months. um she she kind of like moves over and she steps to Hans and she's like, have you tried sleeping during the day?
I, as much as I would like to, it's the same issue. I can get maybe, an
Would you
hour
like
at a time.
would you like me to get something from the apothecary for you?
As much as it, as much as it would be nice, there's one way for me to deal with this. There's someone I must speak to, and
Is the way
soon.
is the way stubbornness? Because it hasn't seemed to be working so far.
It's a different kind of stubbornness that I have been a bit wary to put to use. It's I will I will do my best to improve this by next rest, hopefully tonight.
Please do.
She says, if you don't get some rest tonight, I am going to the apothecary.
Who knows? It could help.
And she gives him an embrace and it kind of like squeezes Rose's forearm and she's like, if you need anything, you know where to find me. Don't be afraid to ask.
Grazie, thank you.
Um, so now we're going to cut from there over to Arthur. How has Arthur been in the 2 weeks since his little revelation?
He is the most tense he's been in years.
How is he when like a woman
He
approaches
is
him at the
not
bar?
slept very well for the last little while. He's gotten a new place to sleep. He's asked for a few sandbags, if that's a thing that exists in this universe.
Mhm.
Any sort of punching bag. He's gone through a few of them.
Can I just assume
He's not
that
having a
been
good time.
He's not really like showing interest in women who flirt with him at the bar after a fight or anything like that?
No, he's extra suspicious.
um, and the give me just a second. The new place that he's at is in a lot of ways it's like the old place was finer in all of its furnishings. This place is more comfortable in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
Like the beds
he's
are
pleased
just
with more comfortable, but
yeah, it's like there's not as much like that's like fancy or anything like that, but there's just a lot of like hominess to it. Like people who come here like might stay for several weeks before they find a home.
Yeah.
Does that make
This
sense?
is more Arthur's jam. This is also, although he hasn't really found the time to enjoy it yet. He'll get
and
there. He'll get there.
and the other thing that's really interesting is like the fighters are just on good terms with each other. Like they're kind of like they view themselves as like a stable. Does that make sense? They're constantly teaching each other. There's like regular like bouts and practices and stuff like that. And like, after the first fight with Arthur, the guy that he like took down, the next day was like, "Can you teach me that thing you did with the cross?" And then you know,
Oh yeah,
um,
no, Arthur fully happy to do that as well for a
and the
few
owner has
reasons.
been. Oh, go ahead.
One of the reasons being, he's actually becoming on good terms with people and he likes doing this, and B, it'll make his fights more interesting if he has to evolve himself.
And that's exactly the way a lot of the fighters are. They want to be better. The entire like way of Finnegan fighting with like the elbows tucked in tight, you know what I'm saying? Protecting the guts, and like most people don't go for headshots because you're likely to break your knuckles, and all the things that were like developed by Rory in developing Finnegan, they're all of interest to them. They're like, why you like that? Why do you fight like that? And when he explains, some of them start trying it, some of them are practicing. Um, the and it's created a little bit of a stir. So and in general also like the tavern owner, he's like not afraid to like invest in weights. Like when somebody gets taken really hard after a fight, like he's bringing a doctor to them, and like, no, you stay back in the bed, like you got your bell rung. And it's very like the kind of like daddy of a gym, you know what I'm saying? Like he's out there to take
Yeah.
care of them. He also makes really good food, and he's a really good brewer. And it's like really easy to see why the other tavern owner just despised him. He just seems to be really good at everything he does.
Yeah. Yeah, Arthur's going to give him some information on how the other tavern did things as well. Just in the hopes, like the beneficial parts that he did things, is in the hopes that this tavern can improve as well and continue doing better.
Yeah, there are some things that absolutely sort of like set him off of like, they did what? Why would they? It's so much wasted food.
And Arthur completely agrees with us.
um, let's see.
But still, Arthur is
name,
doing his best to enjoy these new things. He's
yeah.
having a tough time.
His name is Rudy Zwimmer. He has a love
Rudy
of the
Zwimmer?
Jenny Zwimmer, ZW.
Okay.
He
I'm just
he has a
writing it in.
love of Jenny's, but not like going to them. He makes no bones about like, oh, his equipment doesn't work anymore. But he spends all day keeping a tavern, and he likes to go and pay somebody to like listen to him talk for an hour.
Yeah, I
Most of the Jennies are
do
happy to
understand
do
that some look, certain Jennies are like make a lot of their money just from people talking to them as opposed to
yeah, and there are many of them that
kicking
openly
gravel out of their
practice.
knees.
There are many of them that openly practice in this tavern. Like they don't take customers here; they bring them elsewhere. But it's like
Yeah.
it's known as like a safe place that they can meet potential clients and stuff. So, um, and the man can talk for like an hour about like inquiring about Innish beer making techniques and that kind of stuff. He's deep into what he
Arthur's
does.
happy to talk. He is also if no one's noticed yet, Arthur's a bit of a talker. To put it lightly.
He also is after like a couple like days and stuff like that, when you can tell Arthur has like a lot of like tension and energy and stuff like that. He says, if you need something to keep yourself busy, I know one fight a week enough isn't for you.
You're not wrong about that. Could deal with a little bit of extra.
Um,
Look, my life's
he
been
says,
doing some weird things right now, and I just kind of want time to do some other things and get my mind off that.
he says, if you will swear to be on your very best behavior and not anger Johanna. He says she owns an academy in the area, and the name actually after he introduces, because it was one of the people that you picked up and you're kind of investigating those criminal connections. Johanna
Yes.
Zeitler is the one who's like kind of known for like training thugs and
Swordsman trainer, yeah.
Yeah. She runs a academy.
Arthur does ask for like what exactly do you mean by best behavior? Like it's not in a like I won't. It's not I promise not. It's not an I promise I don't promise that. It's more just what exactly do you mean by best behavior in such a way that understandably everyone has their own description of best behavior.
He says, Johanna is a woman who wields a 7-foot goddamn sword. He says, the number of Eisen men who have told her that she has no business wielding it has made her a bit short-tempered.
That sounds really stupid. All right, I'm in.
Yeah, and
Look, the fact that someone believes that no woman has business holding a sword is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. The woman can hold a sword; she can more likely disembowel you without any issues than a man who says that they're the best swordsman in the fight. Look, the best people I've ever fought in my entire life that have not been bare knuckle boxers have been some fantastic women that have kicked my arse from here to next Thursday, and it's been wonderful.
He says, well, you tell her that. and he takes her over and introduces her to Johanna.
Yeah.
Johanna she's not tall. She is intensely ripped, like just shredded all the way down. She has a great sword that is a full like hand and a half taller than her, but it's not the only weapon she's mastered. She's also mastered a broadsword and a panzerhand. She knows how to use a fencing blade. And after and there are people studying all of these disciplines at our academy. Does that make sense? Like some are highly finesse weapons. Some are like a mix of like strength and endurance. Some are just like pure control and power. And Rudy says this is the best boxer I've seen in ages, and he said to be willing to help around this place if you can spare some coin for him. And Johanna kind of like eyes him, and just whistles towards one of the men that you can see is like wearing 2 panzerhands and kind of like beating on the boxing thing. I'm totally blanking on the name. A heavy bag. Thank you.
Okay.
She whistles him over and she says, show me, as a way of introduction. And he just kind of, readies his panzerhands and
Arthur gets into fighting position essentially. What do I need to roll?
Yeah.
I forgot.
I'm not going to have
I've
him
never
roll.
this.
It's just sort of like we'll go into I don't want to roll out the whole combat. Like basically he's like a journeyman of his style. Arthur is a journeyman of his own. And the fact that like with a bare knuckles pugilism style, it's capable of holding its own with like an armored panzerhand is enough on its own to impress Johanna. Does that make sense? So like he's literally, because of his training, hitting as hard as the guy wearing a panzerhand. A metal gauntlet with, designed for punching and beating. And she both sees Arthur take hits as well as like the way he moves and, the different like bob and weave and techniques and stuff like that.
I mean, part of the taking the hit would also be to kind of take part of the hit as opposed to the entire hit. And then kind of spin around that.
Yeah, the way he's like training.
This is just from my bits of understanding of the sport.
Yeah, a lot of it is like about absorbing blows, but there's also a lot of it that is just flat, like quickly moving and getting out of the way and stuff like that. And she's immediately like intrigued. She says, "All right, you're hired." She says,
"Fantastic."
She says, "Be here every morning." She says, "First 3 hours." Says, "Anybody who wants to pay you for lessons can." She says, "And starting tomorrow, I'll pay you for lessons."
You want to take lessons from me?
I do.
Oh, fantastic. Would you mind doing as opposed to a bit of a payment thing and more of a sort of tit for tat sort of because you mentioned that she does sword play, the panzerhand. What were the other ones you mentioned again?
She has one that's like a paired panzerhand broadsword. She has one that's a Zweihander, and she has a fencing blade that she teaches. Okay. She says, I know Aldana with the fencing blade. She says that's a style based on dance and music. She says also a single blade.
Right. I was thinking something. There's a technique back in my home. It was more similar to Claymore's.
She says my
Is
technique
that
is that
I'm trying to remember everything.
I know
A
the
lot of
technique you're
things.
talking of. She says I would say that style is designed to be as wild and reckless and berserk as you can be. She says, but my technique is the opposite.
Ah, all right. Or last question, actually. Do you have anyone that does spear techniques here?
She says none that'd be interested in seeing someone with a formal technique. The Posen technique is taught just north of here, so the best academy in the world for spear fighting is up there.
All right. Well, you know what? Until well, for now, let's just do a thing where we just kind of work. I'll teach you something again, and I'm happy to just be paid for now. There might be a thing I might desire at another time, but at the moment, I'm perfectly happy just to be taking a payment for a Finnegan lesson.
You're welcome. She says, and if you want to practice with anything, the entire gym is open to.
Fantastic.
As long
You
as you're
people seem
instructing,
lovely.
as long as you're instructing, and you've got some clients, you can use anything you like. You're responsible for any injuries caused by you or your students.
The students part makes me a little worried, but I'll do it anyways.
She says you have to keep him in line. That's part of the deal.
Oh, that part's going to be easy. Nice big thwack to the forehead. That's how I learned.
She shakes his hand. She has a very firm grip, and for her part, the fact that he's treated her respectfully and as a warrior, like Johanna seems to like him.
That's lovely. What level of like are you currently feeling? He's not asking that. He's more just like, what level is this? And like, do I turn you down at the moment, or do I just go, okay, this is something we can explore later, but until I've worked out this goddamn Fae bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, you are very sure that she is not that woman.
Fantastic. He's still cautious all the same.
And you can't exactly tell if she's what her deal is as to like what she's into.
Perfectly happy just to be comrades. Look, I am
what she's
perfectly
definitely not
respectable
into is any of her students or her instructors. Like there's like a professionalism that's like, if you're here, I'm not.
Oh,
Does that make
fantastic.
sense?
That's going to be working perfectly. Perfectly set lines and veils and everything like that. Love those things.
All right. So I'm going to cut from there over to Runa, who has been at the Playhouse, the Bear House, like for the last while. Like you've barely made it home some nights, and plenty of other nights that have just been like sleeping over, catching a few wings.
It's like when she can, she goes home, teaches Brandy some things, like spends a little bit of time with her family, and most of the time she's at the Bear House. She probably hasn't slept very well.
She doesn't want Brandy running around the Bear House learning things.
Look, I take Brandy and I run around the Bear House learning things, but that's something else.
I mean, honestly, Sora is not afraid to bring Brandy there. You know what I'm saying? Like, as far as she's concerned, like, there was so much shame in her own upbringing about, like, what she had to do and stuff like that. She'd rather Brandy not feel any shame being around women who, like, take their clothes off as part of what they do. Does that make sense? And, for her part, Brandy's way more interested in getting into a costume and pretending to be a princess or a knight or...
Well, if they're visiting Runa at the Playhouse, then she's been spending most of her time at the Playhouse.
I think she has, and she's kind of taken to like making meals and bringing them in. You know what I'm saying? And then like after like the first time that some of the actresses were like staring hungrily, making bigger meals and bringing them in. And if everybody could share it, it became like a regular meal time and stuff like that. The Playhouse business has been swamped with like would-be actors as well as other people who are like, I'm a musician, you need a larger orchestra. It's just been sort of like a constant process of like them expanding and trying to get people like, okay, so here is, this is the score of like Hunger's Not, and you need to be able to play it in an hour. And if they can, it's like, okay, we'll hire you. For the others, they're getting experience as extras. There's like more stagehands that are being brought aboard. In a weird way, it's like your first real experience being a captain of a crew, because there's as much that needs to happen. And like a familiarity to it, and like sometimes you just gotta shout, and sometimes you have to be gentler. And learning.
She's really good at the shouting part. She learned from her mom.
And we've seen that side of her when she was, at like the massive feast and everything for everybody. And the success of like the external bear house has not changed at all. But like it's gone up 2 levels of quality, with money that's coming in that's planning on being invested and stuff like that. But ultimately, a playhouse lives and dies by its reputation, and its reputation right now is the hottest thing in Eisen. The and Sora's kind of, she's been helping with a lot of like the costuming and stuff like that. She's a fair hand at like stitching and stuff like that. She's just sort of enjoying getting to help. She really seems to enjoy watching Runa like in her element, kind of finding a new place for herself. And like Brandy coming out from like the changing rooms, whatever new like atrocity she's assembled for herself.
I'm so sorry. Wait, sorry.
Stage manager Runa.
Yeah. Stage managing isn't easy.
They get shit done though.
They do. I've been one.
Sora, like at one point when Brandy goes back in the back, she's like, I'm not sure if she's colorblind or just drawn to atrocious combination.
She really is.
I think she's trying to hurt me.
Perhaps while I teach her things, you should teach her some other things. It would do her well.
She says complementary colors would be a good start.
I agree.
And like Brandy comes out and she no, put the stage jewelry back. No one needs that many necklaces.
Does she just come out in a bunch of jewelry?
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Like some
she's got
heels that are way too big for her.
Absolutely.
I love her. I love this child.
She doesn't realize it, but she's turned like a full-grown actress's corset into a skirt that she's like wearing around her hips. And she's like, but they're beautiful. So I was like,
the second she touches the set piece, Runa's like, I love you, but you put that down. Or
she's just got the what?
Yeah, she's like,
Yeah, when you came out at one point and she was like halfway up a stage tree.
Yeah, Runa was not happy about that, but she was being gentle enough because kid. But she's like, you better not ever do that again.
Louis Claude Ducingin has been a regular at the Opera House.
This is delightful.
He is a short king. He is like obviously pansexual in like an era where not many people are like out about their sexuality. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. He's just sort of like openly flirtatious with everyone. Does that make sense? In a way that is designed to sort of flatter over offend or make people uncomfortable. Does that make sense? That he seems to have a knack for like if somebody would be genuinely like by his advances, he doesn't advance on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's the one who his absolute niche is the one who will be flattered but is forced to act offended by virtue of their station or whatnot that he dials in on every time. And he's also like he seems to be capable of operating half drunk for literal days at a time. Like he's just sort of constantly inebriated, but not at a level that he's like impaired.
Good for him.
And uh, and he's also, you've seen him fight once, like it was over really fast. There was just somebody that was like causing trouble, and then Louis Claude was like, I don't think you want to take this to a duel, but should you chance to, I would be happy to meet you outside. And the person like staggered after him, and Louis Claude just, he was incredibly fast, like some of the fastest hands that you've ever seen. And it was just kind of like, and then you watched as the person's clothes like literally dropped off of them until they were standing in their underwear. And he kind of like put the flat of his blade up and under the pubic region. And he says, now that would be a shame, Tamar. And the guy just fled after that. And
When you
just
threaten a
sort of like,
man's family jewels, I mean,
oh no, it was very specifically that he would never harm them, but he was like admiring them.
Yeah.
And
nice tackle,
the
bud.
guy
This one has a
just
proper
read it.
weight to it.
And Louis Claude just kind of like cackled to himself and like turned back in. But when you see Louis Claude come in that day, he kind of like pushes open the door, and he like, Runa. And it's the first time you've seen him not looking just like he's at a party. He seems to constantly be living in the light.
Mm-hmm.
And you had spent the night at the Playhouse, and when he calls you to the front, like nobody else has arrived yet. The fact that Louis Claude is here is probably because he was intending to raid the bar before the bartender got in. All that, he always pays for everything. I should just be clear, but he might get started before they're ready to. But when you get up to the door of the bear house, you see that there's a note hammered to it. And then hammered underneath it is a broken violin. It's an ornate violin, like the kind that has like gold and gilt and everything that would be used for like a performance violinist. And it's broken cleanly in half.
Rosa can't read, but she already knows whose violin that is.
Yeah. Oh, she knows him. He's been playing in the show.
Yeah.
What does the note say?
The note says, by order of Iron Prince Logan Seeger, the bear house is closed.
Runa's gathering the gang.
So,
Right. So
We're going
runners
to
are
beat
showing
someone
up at
up.
everybody's house.
Yeah, Runa is just going to everyone's places and being like, meet at the bear house. I need to grab everyone else.
Yeah. Runa, at Louis Claude will, like, I will go get the very handsome young captain.
Thank you.
He might be out a while. The man's very fast.
Yeah, so everybody has like one of the Freeburg runners. They're like the kids that like send messages and stuff like that. Like, come to the Playhouse, come to the Playhouse, come to the Playhouse, come to the Playhouse.
Is Wilhelm still at the Playhouse? Wilhelm Kurtz?
No.
Where has he been staying?
He had been bouncing between staying at the Playhouse and like different inns and stuff like that.
Do we
And
know?
I
where
assume he wasn't staying at the Playhouse the last night? Because
He
Runa
wasn't
would
last
have
night,
known.
no. He wasn't there at the last night. He was like, I need.
Because Runa's just been living at the Playhouse.
What was that, Siosa?
He said that he had needed a proper bed. There'd been a few taverns that aren't far that he'd been going to.
Runa would have offered to make him one as like a half joke.
He was like delighted by the offer, but he says, I also need a proper meal.
Oh, Len will wander up.
And
Rose is distraught.
did he tell Runa where he was staying?
There are 3 that he'd been staying at regularly.
She
You
goes
can-
to check all 3 of them.
Yeah, he never checked in at any of them last night.
Okay. Runa has more information for everyone now, I guess.
Okay. So by the time
Hey,
everybody
it's
shows,
nice to see everyone again.
And Runa basically like runs in after, because she went to get everyone and then checked all 3 places that he'd been staying.
What is Rosa up to while everyone's gathering? Where's this violin? Where's this note?
She
Rosa,
put
not
them-
Runa.
Runa would have
Rosa-
put them on the table upstairs, like in our gathering space.
Yeah. And Rose is looking at it and she's just distraught. Like she's
Okay.
trying to hold it in and not cry, but it's there because there's anger there and ooh.
And Runa probably would have ran to each of the places that he was staying.
Honorine gives Rosa a hug. Like as soon as it's still not a very good hug. She's not very good at it, but she gives her a hug.
Runa would run in like utterly out of breath.
But what is the problem?
I don't know. Looks to Runa.
So, the Iron Prince, who is basically controlled by Redman, has shut down the playhouse
The
And
hell he
left.
has.
and left this violin.
I'm
I
pretty sure it's Wilhelm's.
It is. And I checked all the places he was staying that weren't here. And he checked into none of them last night.
For whose door do we break down?
That
I
is
mean,
what
it's time
we
to
need
fuck up the establishment.
establish.
Erhard,
Well,
I say we
He-
keep going.
of course we keep going, but we also need to find our missing violinist. Rosa, this was his prized possession. Can your fate threads?
I can
Can you
try.
like Oh, I can look for him. That was out of character. That was out of character. I
No,
just
that
got
would've been
really
even
excited
funnier if it was
remembering
in
that I
character,
could do
too.
that. I can look for him.
Maybe you should both, just in case.
Okay, what do I need to roll?
you can't actually look based on an object.
Oh, I can't?
No, you need an
Okay.
actual person. Like,
Honorine's
he
looking at
loves his
Gav too.
violin, but not like
Honorine's looking at Gav too.
Is there
Because-
problem?
Because what I know what Rose is looking for a Death Strand.
If
Yeah, she
only
won't
you
be able to
could
see it on
look.
the object.
I'll know if he's dead or not.
Okay.
That is
Okay.
a
'Cause
good
Rose
thing
is
to
pretty
do.
sure he's
Make your roll,
crushed.
Can you ask if your little kids saw anything last night?
I rolled
I
a
will-
24.
I will
27.
look around. I will ask.
See if they saw anything strange.
Grazie.
Or saw
where was-
Wilhelm.
Yeah, he'll.
And mastery doesn't help with my roll, right? Sorry to cut you off. Okay.
Mastery does not help with the roll.
Is that
Go
good
ahead.
enough?
What did you get?
27.
Yes, it is good enough. So Gav, you're having your people. You're talking
Gav
to
is contacting the strand, the kid gangs and giving them like.
So they're
pictures
going to have
of
some information. I
ghosts.
would like a wit and criminal knack just to kind of see if you can get anything more.
Runa, I have a thought, but I don't want to push somebody if they are not ready.
I
What
know.
is it?
You particular is somebody you're pushing.
We have, as they say, pissed off Redmond, obviously.
Correct.
So let's do it double time.
I like the way you think.
Could we also not? I hesitate to suggest it, but could we also not work this into the plays?
See,
Maybe at the start,
add a
hold up
new
the
scene.
letter, adding a new scene, or even just starting off with the Iron Prince fears a play. What kind of prince can he be? How much iron could he truly have? Something like that.
All right. While Gav is out looking, Henri, you had a question for Louis Claude. Louis Claude is there. He's kind of like near the door.
She's going to go up to him and just be like, "How delightful to see you again. I loved your review. It was wonderful."
He says, every word of it true. They have to kick me out every night, and they regret letting me in every morning.
And you come back for more every morning, you darling man.
And he like, waves his hand and like kisses her head.
How do you?
I think like Honoring is like really short, right? Like he's one of the few people that like he kind of stands nose to nose to.
How tall is he?
Like 4'6".
Oh yeah, he's probably like nose to bosom, honestly.
It's the perfect place to be.
He could not be more
Yes.
delighted by the oration.
Because she's probably about 5 foot ish.
Yeah, he will absolutely put a hand on her hip. He's like, have anyone ever observed that you are of the perfect height?
As are you, obviously. Tell me, have you seen Wilhelm anywhere? I thought maybe I would talk to him about the score.
He looks sad and he's like, no, I have reason to think that ill events have befallen him.
Runa will know soon enough.
When was the last time you saw him?
He says, last night, he says before he left, we'd had a few drinks together in celebration. How well things were going. I offered to bring him to a local tavern and give him a ride, but he turned me down very graciously.
How has he been doing? Has he mentioned being
He says there's been a cheer to him.
followed or anything? He's not sad? Anything?
The man has a deep sadness in him. Says from long before he was taken. I don't know what. Says he is exactly the kind of man I would like to make smile, whether he can help it or not. But sadly, he keeps refusing me.
More's the shame for him.
Um,
Please feel free to have a gentleman's breakfast on me if you would like, or whatever. She's gonna like nicely
he says,
disengage.
You would fit quite well on the bar. Consider.
Oh, you're just delightful.
Not the same kind of. I need a stiff drink.
Arthur just.
I know. I would appreciate a drink as well. I'm just saying.
Go for it on me.
I don't think the type of drink that they are talking about.
Well, I would have a drink off of him as well.
I think he thinks you are the tall drink, Arthur.
Exactly.
Incredibly flattering. Unfortunately, I just don't happen to go into the same direction that you're hoping I'll go into the same direction of. So, while deeply flattered, no thank you.
Yeah, he winks, but he says, I suspect that your friend, he says, maybe in the Stone to Wyson, and if you'd like, I can take a look there. I don't believe I'm on anybody's wanted list.
The what?
The Philosopher's Stone.
The Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah. I'll be back. Arthur kind of just takes a step out.
Stop!
Don't
like
Get back in here.
something stupid.
We're talking
entire
about this together.
Like 4 people are
My
like,
entire
Arthur, no!
Look, I understand. My stupid
Runa's
idea
gonna
is to
grab
send a
him by
little
the back
message
of the
out to
collar.
ask.
Wait, pause.
I have
Pause,
a note to
Siosa,
send.
Pause, Siosa. What were you
Okay.
saying?
So, Gav, what you're going to get confirmation that he was absolutely taken in the night by members of the Wachtturm.
Do the kids of the Philosopher's Stone, do they know where he got taken?
We didn't follow across the bridge. They closed down the bridges after he went over. They have guards on each of them.
Ah, for Dampton. Oh, thank you muchly for your help.
One of the kids is like, I could swim over. The other one's like, no, you can't.
You
We've been
bloody
over
well
this.
not.
Uh,
I'm a good swimmer.
do we know where they
And
would
so are the
normally
Gators.
house
I'm
prisoners?
trying to
in-
contact my contacts. Just give me a moment, mate. From muffled things from upstairs.
Do we know where they normally keep prisoners in the Philosopher's Stone?
So now I'm going to cut to Runa, who's kind of been focusing on her vision and getting her rune up and running. You're relieved when your vision opens up on something because it means that he's alive. The room is incredibly dark. Like you're getting kind of like light under a doorway levels of dark. And no windows, so no real way to tell exactly where it is. Wilhelm's hands are like in bags that are bloodied. Like they're wrapped tight around the wrist as like a kind of bandaging. And he's humming to himself, and you hear another voice in the room, and he kind of like, what is that song? The other voice, and Wilhelm kind of just hungers not, and when you can kind of see like just enough, you don't, I don't know. Was Runa at the Trog's burial? Did she go to that?
She may have.
Um,
Was she
No.
out of
Henri has
the
probably watched that
sewers?
episode.
I watched
No,
that
no, no.
episode
It
and
was in like the second episode, like when Trogs was given a eulogy and everything like that.
the only people that mentioned going were Girard and Hans.
Okay. So Runa doesn't recognize the features of the man that is in the cell with Wilhelm. But
But she
he
can
kind of,
remember a face, probably.
she can. And he does kind of like move closer. You can see that like his body has like lashes and burn marks and stuff on it. Like he's clearly been under as much torture, and it looks like his eyes are red from tears. And he says, can you sing it again? And Wilhelm kind of like, he says, I'm not much of a singer. He says, but, and he kind of like starts it over, and you see the man is just kind of like he's swaying back and forth to it, like appreciating the break from whatever monotony it was forced on him. And that's where the vision ends. You only have like a short time in it, but
The first thing she says is, he's alive in a cell with another man, and she describes the man with as best detail as she can.
do you want to make an art roll, Gav?
Let's see if I can remember what my art skills are.
Like police sketch this shit.
Roll keep wits or finesse?
Finesse.
Yes. Oh yeah, I upped that one.
I'm gonna ask, did I hear any background noise? Is it that advanced?
It's more that yes, you could pick up background noise normally, but he was in a cell with a thick door.
Okay.
So that is 22.
Another one. All right, it's maybe not your best likeness, but Rosa, you pick it out immediately. That's Logan Seeger.
He was supposed to be the heir, right?
He's been seen in public several times, like making declarations on behalf of Redmond Earhart.
Odd person.
Actually,
Oh!
Oh no!
Oh,
Oh,
wait.
no.
Oh, shit.
Actually, what I would like you to do, I want somebody.
The players all got it to the characters.
No,
That's
no,
my
no, no.
question.
Before you jump to that assumption, here's the thing I want you to do. Make who has cryptography skill, or like spy stuff kind of works for it. So Arthur, I would like you to make a wits and uh, uh, is it criminal or
Well,
enforcer?
you said spy stuff because I have spy master and I have criminal.
Yeah, so I'm going to include it like doing some cryptography for this particular occasion. Go ahead and just give me a wits and criminal roll, and you can get your +5 from spy master from it.
Okay, so it's roll +5 dice, so 7, and then it's wits.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody who was at the
26.
Okay. So the note that is on the table was written by somebody who was forced to write it under pain. Like, you can tell by the way the handwriting jags occasionally and stuff like that, like that they're being prompted basically by fire or blade or brutality.
So not a pod person, but he's being
Well,
tortured.
the pod person is probably who's making the public declarations, but anything written down is by the man himself.
Yeah.
Not that Gav can know all this, so he's
No one shared any of this enough of this information with Arthur for him to be
So-
able to jump to any conclusions.
Yeah. So Rosa, if she's told about the writing,
Yeah, it's
she's-
shared.
Arthur, you missed what happened to me at the party. I was attacked by a insect thingy that can take shape of others. I had honestly thought that you might be one of them, but your card does not match theirs.
They changed into someone else.
See.
Out of character, this is one of those, is this a changeling thing? Because I'm about to be very upset. Arthur is, not me. Me is going to be excited.
So Honorene's still sitting with her arms around. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Siasa.
This is a question I have for Rosa, of just like, since that event, whenever the group has gotten together, has she like used her arcana to verify that everybody is who?
Every single time.
I would like a roll at the moment from you for your
Oh
arcana.
no!
Uh-oh.
It's not. It's
Just in case she explodes.
Not me making sure that I didn't receive a note saying you're not actually Len from Siosa.
Yeah, in case I got
everyone,
something saying that I'm the imposter.
Check your DMs, boys.
5
Yeah.
keeps 3.
Did I miss something?
Suddenly we're also
Hope not.
playing Mafia.
14.
Okay, so is it 15 to activate your arcana?
I've never had an under.
Let me just double check real quick.
Dun dun dun.
But she has been spending more time with the book. Yeah,
it's
she
it's
would
a
be very
15.
afraid of like trusting anybody right now. Every time they come in, so she'd
You
make
want to
sure.
use a drama die to re-roll it?
If you use a drama die, you're just going to succeed because you can use it. Just add one.
Oh,
Would one please use a drama dice? He asked
I'm
politely.
using my drama die.
Say again.
I'm gonna use one of my drama die to just up it enough.
Okay, so it is not that one of your people is a pot person, and I've secretly replaced them. They've been role playing the whole time. But what is something that you see? So Honorine, when you look at Honorine, you see like the flames in the eyes of like her card, right? But you also see that there's sort of like a shadowy something that almost like embraces her arcana. Does that make sense? What's new is that Hans has the same thing around him. He doesn't have the fiery eyes, but like seeing it with the two of them in the same room, it's like the first time you really see that connection so clearly.
Oh,
No.
there's this immediate like look between the two.
Do they
And
have
then
do they have any cords between them? Hans and Honorine?
shit.
Oh,
What
wait
do I
a-
need to
oh,
roll?
maybe.
What was that? Ugh.
Here's what I'm gonna do. Give me um a cups roll and give me a staves roll.
Cups, huh?
3, 5, 7. Keep.
I forgot what all of them
3.
mean. I'm just like,
I
oh.
saw that.
Are they leaky cups?
That's 26, and then 7. Keep 3 again. Or 26. How did I roll?
Okay. So
And none of them
double
exploded.
26.
you remember when I explained that there are certain kinds of strands that like cannot be modified even by a Fade Witch because there's like a destiny band into them?
Mhm.
So there's that shadow. There is a relationship between them and the shadow. You're realizing that shadow is like an omnipresence, but it is a presence that is not them. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Honorine has the Queen of Cups to it, and Hans has the King of Staves.
Okay.
I feel like that's a bad thing. I feel like that means
Interesting.
danger.
Staves is
It
parental.
all means danger.
Staves
is
is Staves is no.
No,
Cups is passion.
passion. Yeah. Oh, ah.
And
I need
and
to-
Staves is authority and respect.
Yes. Yeah. I got all my. It's been too long.
In the meantime,
Before the explanation of like the pod people and stuff like that, did you guys kick Louis Claude out or did he overhear that?
He probably
It would've
overheard that. I don't think
depended-
anybody.
It would have
Our
depended
OPSEC
if
is
he
pretty
was
bad.
safe or not, because he would have had to pass Rose's safe test.
He was heading
first.
to sign device,
So,
wasn't he?
Here's the other part of the
Thought he was going
Arcana
to get a
worth bringing
gentleman's
up.
breakfast.
Here's the other thing that Louis Claude's Arcana is unique as well, in that his is like a framed painting. Does that make sense? But
Yeah.
the and you see in it he is what is the thing for hedonist?
Lovers?
no.
No, it's
Oh,
I think it's the Empress.
sorry, you said framed painting. That reminds me. The painting that Herr Weiss made is
Under his arm.
no, the one that the guy made that he gave Gav. I can't remember his name all of a sudden.
Yeah, I'm
So-
assuming he's bringing the first
Yeah.
time.
So the Empress is their downside is lecherous.
No, it's not that. There's a hedonist one. He's more generally. I think he's more generally. Let me look up real quick. I might have it wrong.
High
actually.
Priestess. High Priestess is hedonistic.
Yeah.
Just saw it.
Yeah, intuitive
Yeah,
and
there we go.
hedonistic. It was one I was considering actually.
But it looks fancy.
It fits the tiny terror to a T.
Yeah.
But
Empress is lecherous.
Lecherous. It is lecherous actually. So which one was that?
Empress.
Empress.
Okay, so it's the inverted Empress, and the actual card image is of Louis Claude himself, but wearing like a female Empress's clothing in the painting. Does that make sense? Like fully like corseted skirts, all out, like looking fantastic actually.
Oh yeah, the first time she sees it, there's a moment of like, because I'm betting everyone's just gone very used to Rosa being like, okay, pod people check, and
This
and
is
like
new.
check.
Interesting.
The
Like,
other
Everyone
thing,
line up
And then
for
see-
inspection.
sees that one the first time and just goes, no.
the other thing is that in the background of the painting, there's two other things that like kind of jump out at you. One is that there's a woman in green that is holding some sort of like decanter. Does that make sense? And the other side of it is a rose that is like entrapped in one of the things to preserve stuff, like from Beauty and the Beast, like in a glass terrarium kind of thing. Both of those are present in his, and the entire thing. There's just something strange about him. Does that make sense?
Is it a full arcana or just the one?
It's just the inverted one. He's just horny.
And also, so after she had talked to him about the violinist, she definitely was like, yes, please, go check out, go put your ear to the ground,
Okay.
All that stuff.
All right.
So she had been trying to gracefully sort of send him off.
So I'm gonna have him not have overheard the pod person when she asked him to go and stuff like that. He's like, I will go in disguise. And he removes his hat, and that's it. And then he leaves.
The hero wears a cunning disguise.
And he's like, I'm not on anyone's wanted list. And she's like, darling, you're on everyone's wanted list.
He says, oh, is there a bounty for me?
No, but there is a high
special.
score list.
He has a special hidden arcana of like impossible to shame. So, all right. So, it's just like a minute or two later that he comes up and he says, there is an issue. Like, you've kind of completed the pod check, you've talked about like options and stuff like that.
Another one?
Yes, he says, it seems that the Wachtturm are moving towards the bear house.
What?
That does seem like an issue.
En masse.
We need to leave.
No, we need to gather.
They're not getting in.
Len, I am not a fighter. If they get me, kind of looks to Honorine. It is not a good thing.
If you must go to be safe, please do so.
Says, Louis Claude says, I can get someone to the sewers, he says, if they need. There is enough time for that. He says, but they are approaching on every street, he says, attempting to get anyone who might run. He says, this is clearly symbolic, he says, and they have blades and torches.
We need to get runners if there are still streets. They cannot have fully surrounded us without people having come to told us already. We need to get runners out. Let the people know what is happening now.
Someone just came to tell us, Len.
Yes, I know. But this is different. We need to gather the people. They cannot just surround this place with blades and burn it to the ground. It will not be stood for.
Yeah. Gav's like, I know some of the fastest feet in this city. And he, contacts Felix, contacts all the little runners. And
he uses like a little slide whistle.
There's always a kid. There's always a kid on every corner. It's Freiburg.
And since Gav has kind of started his gang and bought the thing, there's like always a kid at the bear house who's usually not allowed inside because he stole a 7-year-old boy.
And he's like, and make sure Cardinal Ciosa knows.
Especially.
This will not stand.
Like there's still about probably half an hour or so before they would arrive. And Louis Claude kind of like, I can get you to the sewers if you like, Rosa. I intend, if need be, to fight my way through them to get to the Knights of the Rosencross to provide you assistance.
Knights of the Rosencross, Wilma Prost must be advised as well.
See.
I can.
All right, get Rosa to safety. Summon the Knights of the Rosencross.
You should not. No one should be here when they get here. None of us should.
I'm not letting this place fall.
I need the word to get out that we are providing free beer to everyone who comes within the next 20 minutes.
Yes.
That's a good strategy.
Intelligent.
Len is going to just kind of take Rosa by the shoulders, lean in, give her a little kiss. He's like, be safe for me.
I
Whether
love
you
for you.
stay or go. I love you too. we really need to have that date. We've been trying so hard. It's been so crazy. This is the worst time. But if I live through this, we are having the date this week.
See, I
Okay.
agree.
Very close.
have it
Like, that's
before they
so
arrive.
precious.
20 minutes, 15.
I think.
Meanwhile,
I'll
Honorane's
set
gonna
half an
get
hour.
dressed up.
Right.
Len's
nice.
gonna go
Louis-
find a bear mask.
Louis Claude kind of like, with me, milady. And Len, as you kind of like as you cross downstairs, you see the doors open, and a hooded figure push in. And as you turn,
Runa like has her dagger out.
he throws his hood back, and you recognize him the moment you see him. He is Iron Prince Fischler, Kathrinia's older brother.
Oh, he's the adorable one.
Prince Fischler?
Oh, fuck.
We like-
Rose
can't
is
even-
not gone yet.
He kind of says, Len, it has been some time, but that beard does wonders for you.
Thank you. It was so patchy when I was a teen. This may not be the safest place, though. Prince, God, what's his name? Logan. Iron Prince Logan
Seeger.
has been Logan Seeger has been imprisoned, and Redmond is using his name and a lookalike.
The
Of
other
course.
Iron Prince Seeger.
Seeger, yeah.
Because there's two.
Is using lookalike to force proclamations. So they're coming down to burn us to the ground. This is
Oh,
not a safe
sure.
place for you.
I have the worst luck.
Friend
I'm-
Len, this man is not for punching, bah.
Just to
This is
pause
not
for a second,
punching,
is this
no.
the first time that it has actually been said to Arthur there are two of them?
You
Probably.
you've been in the room.
Oh no,
You've
we
been in the room.
I've been
explained.
in the-
Like we sent him away. There was a hand wave explained.
Well, I think we're misunderstanding. What they're saying is that there is a Iron Prince Seeger who runs his own lands, and Logan Seeger, who is his son.
Oh, okay, that's more
So
what I'm
there's
like.
two
the-
Seegers, not-
I don't
there's-
think anyone's properly said there are pod people yet, because Arthur will work
Arthur-
out changeling.
Rosa was trying to tell you about.
I know, and then this all happened. That's what
Yeah.
I mean.
Yep.
I feel like we kind of missed that part because suddenly, dramatic exposition. We're gonna block this for now, so we reveal it later. That's what I mean.
Len's gonna grab his
You're
spear,
about to
a
say
bear
important
mask,
information, and then
and just be like, "Prince, come with me." Unless you just want to flee and meet up later.
He says,
At
I
the I have the
am not
worst
one
luck.
to
Guys,
flee.
guys,
Go ahead and say what you're going to say about the worst luck. He says, I am not one to flee. He says, but I came here looking for you. He says, because I have news. He says, Kathrina has sent word to me. Ilya is dead. And she is on her way here to find safety.
There is not much safety to be found here for her. Though probably more than the capital. With the Gaius dead, there's nothing to stop the general from pushing straight to the heart of Asura, except the whatever Niases can
He
scrape
says, the
together.
letter, as I understand it, he says, was that Montague took the capital. He says, and then surrendered to Ilya. He says, he asked in return, he says, food, he says, in support, and Ilya clapped him in irons and threw him into prison. Says, whereupon Alexei Novgorod slew the Gaius.
Yeah, that tracks. That little shit never really grew up.
He says, the problem is also that Montague, he says, apparently had plans in case Ilya did not accept his surrender in an honorable fashion, and he has escaped, and now his armies are on the way here, along with Kathrina, and I have no idea who's in charge of Usura at the moment.
All right, so
I smell burnt toast. Does anybody else smell burnt toast?
no,
right now?
So
Okay.
what is the situation here?
take your pick.
we're all
Long
going to
story
die.
short,
We're being hunted.
a
See.
would-be new Gaius, Redmond Earhart, who controls much land in the city and much money, has imprisoned the old Iron Prince's son, and has been, as far as we can tell, torturing him to make him sign proclamations while the lookalike goes in public to make sure everything looks hunky-dory and safe. So there was a play that this place put on that quite terribly skewered Redmond. And so he has taken one of our musicians, is probably torturing him right now, so he's going to die. Redmond's going to die an even more terrible death than before, but he is also sending all of his mercenaries here to shut down the beer house under the orders of the Iron Prince.
And they're on their way this minute.
It'll be here about 20 minutes, so
Yeah.
Pretty soon.
Look-alike?
I
we'll talk about that in a bit, Arthur. First, we have to live.
It feels important to talk about very soon.
Rosie
Yeah,
or
all right.
Arthur, you're coming with me then. I will explain it.
Fantastic.
We could
Very
probably.
But we really need to go now, though.
Yes.
Yeah, no,
Everybody
we'll
who's
go.
going,
I'm going to murder that woman. Fantastic.
And Rosa one last time just grabs Len's hand, squeezes it, and leaves.
Squeeze.
We could probably use
I want
his
to be
fighting
loved.
skill. But
Well, Arthur, make sure she gets safe and then hit them in the back. Come back and hit them in the back. They won't see it coming.
Oh, yeah,
Hit
no,
from the back.
I'm Gav.
Smith.
Gav, and he just throws out these little notes that he's been writing and like kind of like send it out to the Johanna, ask politely, say I'll do 10 lessons free, just whatever you need to do.
So we're gonna open the next game with sort of like how the plan is. Does that make sense? Because we got 10 minutes left, so we don't have time for a big ass fight.
Free though.
The folk kind of like I fought in the 30 Years' War at the very, very end of it. He says I didn't do well. It says so. If somebody wants to be in charge, now would be an excellent time to step up and command the defenses. Maybe start moving things to fortified positions, that sort of thing.
who's saying this?
Hans.
The Fischler is saying this. The Iron Prince.
Yeah.
You just got here.
Gav just sort of slowly
Go.
looks over to Hans.
Yeah. He's about to sit down. It's like, oh, it's another idea. Shit. All right. I'm getting to work on that.
He's gonna.
Yeah.
Lenny's
a-
gonna give Hans a
I had a-
giant mug of coffee with like just tons of sugar in it.
No. This state is actually perfect.
And
This is good. I can
Fischler extends a hand to him. He
kill
says,
some people
Falk.
like this.
Says, my name is Falk. Tell me where you need me.
He's an
I don't have an exact
Don't
like
put him on the front.
in character response. I'm going through like immediately like he's in it now. Like 4 hours of sleep for the whole week, whatever. He's in it. If I can, I had a devious little plan where I wanted to try and get like a tiny bit of sleep to have a bit of a communion, but that's not entirely needed.
Actually, let's do this. Honorine, is your statue here?
Yes.
I've got the hand too.
So as Hans is kind of like going for like looking for a place to commune, maybe like an appropriately shadowy area, he actually almost like feels a call. And tell me where Honorine has the statue.
She hid it like she I was thinking about this last week and I thought I'd have more time to think about it. But she's got it like on the second floor, like far back behind very old props, like ones that haven't been used in a long time. And she's also got a little line of the sap around it, like a magic circle kind of thing. So there's this like dried blood sap circle around it, and it's like just in a corner, like behind the drape of like an old wig or some shit like that.
Okay. Hans, you can almost like feel something, you know what I'm saying? For like the moment you're kind of like, I just want to speak to the man, like it's almost like a heartbeat, like dun 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 dun. And
Does
you can
Honorine
follow
hear it too?
to get louder. Yes.
Yeah. he's in the middle of giving out an order, and then he just kind of trails off and starts walking away.
Falk is
I'll be back. Just continue. What
let's
have I
start.
said?
Yeah, Falk is kind of like, let's start moving tables in front of doors.
Yeah.
Barring the windows,
Um,
all of that.
yeah, you see for the first time like it's Honorine watches him almost like instinctively move to it and kind of peel the cloth back, and you see a tiny little, like, it looks nothing too much to you as like an altar or an idol, an effigy of something that you have placed more and more faith in, even as it's grown harder and harder on you in the last few nights. Your nights of the last few days have been genuine nightmares. um
Which I'm like, oh, cool, extra practice time to this is hell. I am dying over and over again.
Honorine's following him, like, trying to be quiet about it, but he seems like he's so out of it that she's not that worried about getting caught. And, like, if anyone else tries to follow, she's like, no, shh, go help.
Yeah.
He's like subconsciously reached into his pouch and got the hand, and then the full arm kind of like scales up as after he puts the gauntlet on, I would imagine. Like he's getting into that kind of that headspace in a bit.
And Honorin can see that the pauldron is one of the trees of Black Forest. Like it's metal, but it's an engraving of that. And what does Hans do in front of this little figurine to the Scotten man?
Ooh. I think he's gonna take out his sword, kind of plant it in the floor in front of him, and then lean and place his head on it and almost try to sleep for like the briefest moment. Because that's the most reliable way that he knows to get into that place. Is to try and rest.
And he it doesn't even take closing his eyes. Like both Honorine and Hans can see like the figure of the Scotten man seem to like rise above the altar. It is shadow, and it's like more translucent than Honorine is used to seeing him. She can see through him to like the wall behind him, and she can see like the glowing eyes. None of the sort of like wood and armor is visible. The thing that Honorine kind of knows like surrounds him. Does that make sense?
You keep mentioning this dark time, that I am to be some sort of leader against a tide of chaos or the apocalyptic event. And you know that I'm in. You know that I've committed myself to this. But now it is your turn. I need something from you. This fighting, it is not helping. I'm not improving fast enough. I need something more. You know how I feel about our deal. But if this is to be my life, then let me help those closest to me as well. And then he'll kind of like, he stares straight up and kind of bow back in reverence a little bit.
When you look up, you see the Scotten man like kind of points over your shoulder, and Honorine, he's pointing directly at you, and he just bids you closer.
First, at the sound of like our deal, Honorine is just like, her jaw like hits the floor. She's just like half dressed for some sort of performance, she doesn't know what, and she's just sort of like kind of comes closer, but more out of like almost automatic. She's just like, what the fuck? And she kind of puts her hand on Hans's shoulder so that he knows she's there, like hoping not to startle him.
He's cold. like through whatever shirt he's wearing, his shoulder is cold. That's one. That's just one element that I found cool from one interaction. I wanted to keep that going.
The Scotland man speaks softly, and it's to Honoring. He says, "This is my general." Says, "I grant you permission to tell him my name." And he and she remembers it from her childhood. Do you need me to tell you again?
Yes.
That's fine.
I don't remember if I ever actually knew it.
Yeah, you asked about it, and I told you it.
Then forgot.
You remember learning it as a child, and you've never really quite like found a meaning or another language that you've heard like it. I need to actually double check the pronunciation of it because it's a hard one.
This is gonna be good.
Um,
It'd be really funny if his name was just like Greg.
This is the Dark Lord, Bob.
Yeah.
it's so his name is Tuwasog. And the original language is Welsh, but there's no Welsh parallel in Avalon. Does that make sense? The parallel is actually Cymru, which is the people that were in Avalon before any other. The modern Inish and Highlanders and Avalon people are all immigrants from like Montaigne and Eisen and other places that have like Englishified. That's the language of the original inhabitants. But when she says it aloud, there's like an almost like palpable heartbeat in the room. Does that make sense? And the he looks to Hans. He says, "Say it."
I need you to give me that one more time. I don't want to fuck it up in front of my guy.
She whispers it very softly.
Yeah. She says, "Tywasog."
Tywasog.
Again. Say it again. Again. And like the second one is like loud enough that like almost everybody else in the building can hear it.
Shit.
Does that make sense? Like it's just a tiny whisper, but somehow it's like echoing through the place.
Did somebody sneeze?
And with the third time, like you see the Scatman, like he just sort of like down into the altar, and then shadows flow out from it, and you watch them. You're in a costume room, and you see a shadow like up into a dress and like another one up into a fake suit of armor, and they just walk out, walking like people, and shadowy weapons like appear in their hands.
Whoa. Stands up. This will do. This will definitely do.
And you hear the Scatman's voice one last time, and he says, "I do not test you to harm you."
Kind of breaks out of the like weird worship trance.
Yeah. And then Honorine hears his voice as well. Hans doesn't hear what he says, just as Honorine didn't hear the thing about the testing, right? and she hears him say, I am moved every time I hear you say it. And she feels a brush of cold against her cheek.
What's moved? Sorry.
So Arthur, you hear that name. I don't know if do you know Simri? Was it one of the things you bought as an advantage?
Let's say yes, and then buy it for next session.
I will actually allow you to retroactively buy it if you want to set aside 3 experience for it.
Yeah, I'll do that. That's easy enough.
Okay. There are not many Simri folk left in the world, in all of Amalot. That language, that word, you know its meaning, and it means prince.
Yeah, Arthur, do you want a heckin' concern?
Does he play the guitar?
Does he inform anybody else?
The shadows themselves seem to sort of like disappear as like the costumed army starts to walk out of the playhouse. By the time they've left the playroom, they appear to be nothing more than just fucking animated clothes.
Huh.
That is new.
Carrying what looks like theater and stage weapons.
That better not be any of my set.
So, I don't know what Hans looks like as he like stands back up or anything, but when he looks at Honorine, she's got like a very like mixed expression on her face. She was delighted to see this god, this man, this being. And she is so very sad that he's gone again. So she's like, her eyelashes are like wet. She's trying very hard to compose herself, but she's not there. So Hans can see it all before she can manage to get herself together.
There's a purchase I'm gonna make after game that kind of ties into everything, but he's like I'd imagine his face looks he's a bit paler, and his eyes look just a little bit more sunken in than they did before. He doesn't just look exhausted anymore.
He looks like he's dying, apparently.
He's Christian Bale in The Machinist.
Oh,
yeah.
You know a much different side of him, don't you?
I've known him forever. I didn't realize you...
I guess not. Have not told many people. That is something for another time. I don't.
You don't have to tell me anything. I know everything I need to know about you by knowing that he picked you. And she like, oh, go ahead.
Sometime you must tell me what he is truly like. I'm curious. Outside of a arrangement such as mine.
For those who are in the playhouse, there's a sudden like bang, 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 bang on the door.
She's
Gav
gonna
answers it.
She's gonna like kind of squeeze Hans' shoulder again and hurry.
A very pale Sora is holding Brandy, and she's like, "There are soldiers coming this way." And like right behind her is Alejandra, who has like a sword in hand.
It's not safe for you guys here.
There's nowhere else for them to go. Get them to the safest place in here. Bring me
Come
beer
with me.
barrels.
Bring you what?
Beer barrels.
He's leaning into Honorine. Honorine had a great idea here. He's setting out beer barrels, tables, tankards, and he's yelling about free beer.
And like Brandy's like, the costumes are dancing. She's carried away. Sora kind of like, do you have a rifle? I can shoot.
We did take some weapons, some rifles and guns. Didn't we? Could have sworn
And
we.
we do.
This has been your safe house for some time. I don't mind if there's been a stashing of a few weapons and stuff like that.
Can Alejandra fight?
There's a gun somewhere.
And
probably.
she-
Oh,
Yeah.
you've seen Alejandra kill in cold blood and warm before. So.
Okay,
yeah.
is there anyone at all who can watch Brandy? Because I don't
Well,
want her leaving the safe space.
I think it hadn't Rosa left with Louis Claude.
Yeah,
And
Rosa's already gone.
Rosa's
but
gone.
I'm sure there's
So is
some
Arthur.
actresses- Yeah, Arthur's gone too, but I'm sure there's some actresses who are not going to be up on the front lines or anything.
She's gonna leave Brandy with Veronica.
yeah, there are a couple actresses who are definitely like not combatants.
Actually,
What's the
everyone who needs to be in a safe place, they're in the same room.
That makes the most sense.
And I'm just like, watch my niece, please.
It's like, come, I'm going to tell you a story.
Hold my
and-
poodle.
As you guys are like looking out and stuff like that, you see like there are people rushing to help. Some are just doing it because they heard the Wakunda coming. Some are doing it because of the offer of free beer. You know what I'm saying? It's definitely like coming to a fever pitch, and like the costume shadows are kind of like moving out amongst them. It is definitely like there are definitely people that are like that. That's eerie, and others that are just sort of ready to help. Like they seem to think that there's some sort of trick because they're wearing like costume clothes and costume weapons and stuff like that. And so they think it's like something to make the numbers look larger, like they're pulling a trick to that effect. Does that make sense? You hear the voice of Kelly Loring, the head of the Wakund, boom over the playhouse.
Oh no.
He says, by order of the Inquisition, any inside who surrender themselves to the Inquisition judgment will be spared. Battle can be avoided if Rosa Nix and Honorine Sice du Sice surrender themselves to the Inquisition.
Or my dead body.
Len outside, being the one outside, is going to slam the butt of his spear into the ground and say simply, "The Inquisition has no authority here, so says Cardinal Ciosa and all of these fine people. Battle can be avoided if you turn around, go home, and release the real Iron Prince."
Thunderstruck starts playing.
So, the last reactions I want to kind of close on. Arthur and Rosa, you're with Louis Claude. He picked like a narrow alley, and there were still like 6 Wakun members like coming up it. Does that make sense? And he just like blades out, and you watched him kill 6 men in the blink of an eye, and like sheath the blades before they had hit the ground.
Shit.
Hell yeah.
Grazie.
I'm impressed.
And then you hear the voice. You hear the voice calling out and saying that if Rosa Nix surrenders, those inside will be spared.
Shit.
Don't you
You
dare.
keep moving forward, or we're all going to die.
You hurt him.
Think for a bleeding moment about the people that you're with. Would they, for a moment, sacrifice you for the benefit of anyone?
I'm not deserved.
I will drag you kicking and screaming down the alleyway if we need to.
Thank you, Arthur.
Louis Claude kind of like, my apologies, beautiful lady. It is not normally my practice to do this, but could you please pick her up?
Don't
Arthur,
you dare.
Arthur, Arthur will. Like, he'll just like grab her, throw her over
We're
his
just
shoulder.
gonna
and start
fight this.
moving
Let's go.
You horrid man.
If Arthur
You
needs
actually
to,
wanna
he's
roll it
going to
out
do.
for
If Arthur needs to, he's going to do the thing that you do when you just hit someone in the back of the neck real
He
fast.
says, well,
knock him
he
out
says,
for a
this
moment.
is, he says, not about your resistance. This is about we need to run right now, and that is a skirt.
I do not run.
Exactly.
Too
He points
nice.
to
You
Arthur.
will
Arthur's
be
already
carried.
gone. Arthur's already carrying you and running.
And Louis Claude is like taking off. You know what I'm saying? It's not long before.
So which
more
direction are we supposed to be going?
Joe,
I know I took
he
off
says-
first, but this is just a
Yeah.
bad idea.
It says Steinholt to the Knights of the Rosencross as like more members of the Wachtturm come out and Louis Claude's blades flip out. And he clearly turns as like making a stand against them in the street.
Those poor guys.
This man is getting laid if I hear about this.
Arthur's kind of thinking the same thing, but
yeah.
he's just going to find some help.
Yeah, like as you see them approaching and stuff like that, you hear like, "You're outnumbered 20-1, surrender." And he says, "Bring another 40 and you have a chance."
I mean, it's
I love this man.
Iron Prince.
Mhm.
fucking
Arthur is also-
Fischler.
Arthur, while
No.
running, is also a little in his
Sweet
head,
love.
a little concerned about the fact he just heard the words "prince" in an ancient dead language that no one should know.
The
A little concerned, but he's keeping that to himself for the most part at the moment.
I'm gonna add
Because
just
the
a
other
little bit of-
concern is more blades.
Yeah, and
just
Rose
gonna-
is just like, I need to go back.
No.
Cursing at you and Adachi.
Yeah, she's currently screaming, "You horrid man!" in Bodachi, like hitting his
I'm-
back.
I'm imagining there's
Put
some
me
other
down.
swears put inside, and Arthur just goes like he'll slow down for a moment and go, "That was a new one. I appreciate that one." Just keeps going.
Oh, they're
So-
all new. They're
All
all
right,
in
I'm gonna-
Bodachi.
So we're drawing
I'm
Oh
gonna
no,
add
he's heard
one-
Okay,
Bodachi
guys.
insults before.
Oh.
I'm gonna add one more little bit of context here and then drop the curtain. The language, the Cymri, there are some speakers of it, but the fate of the Cymri seems to be somewhat important in this moment. So I kind of want to talk about it because they were the original inhabitants. And one of the last islands where they persisted and survived was Innismore before the Inish themselves wiped them out. The Cymri were said to have been there, like they were the first settlers there after the Shi. And while everybody in Avalon kind of has a different perspective on the Shi, the Highlanders like don't trust them. The Inish think they're pretty great generally as a rule, and the Avalon are kind of like in between. They're I won't call them fair weather friends. It's just that there have been as many Avalon kings killed by Shi as there have been, supported by them. Does that make sense? The Cymri were never their allies, but they somehow persisted and survived in the face of the Shi's dislike. This one is bearing a name in a language that could pretty much be called the Shi's human enemies. And the name that he's bearing is Prince. So you can make of that whatever you will. I'm going to leave just Arthur with that thought. Someone said that we need Gav's response to in chat. Is there something that I missed?
I think just to what the whole situation is. When Len is standing out there, the second Kelly Loring is done, Gav is walking out and he has got a massive metal pole on one shoulder. And by massive, I mean it's probably 8.5 feet long. And, is going to absolutely hurt when he hits somebody with it.
Um,
And he's sort of stepped through to like the front of the line next to Len.
Gav knows how strong he is, but like the click of crossbow bolts is enough to like that. It's a natural drive back. I mean, I assume he's not like suicidal.
No, he's basically standing next to Len.
And it's like the both of your like the fight that's going to be happening is basically going to be of like the various openings and stuff like that being held. It's not going to be like an open out in the fight street because the Wachtturm do considerably outnumber them, and the fight is basically lost if they don't get reinforcements. It's a matter of time by virtue of the difference in numbers.
Yes, but
Does that
Gav
make
has
sense?
made it very clear that he's going to make it as difficult as possible.
So the whole fight is going to be the next session. We're going to open with that, and it's going to be a mass combat. And I want to make something clear about that because like mass combats are done round by round. Does that make sense? They're strategy roles, and everybody within them is basically kind of making survival roles based on how heavily engaged they are. And there are heroic opportunities and things like that, things that'll earn reputation. But that's basically what we're looking at is a big fight. And you will have several different groups of reinforcements that are on the way by virtue of the deeds that you've done, your accomplishments, and so that is where I'm going to drop the curtain, though. I know it's a cliffhanger, but it's just too much to do, even if we were like stay another hour.
Just so it's said, Runa's making sure Sora has a gun and the stuff that she needs for the gun.
Oh yeah, when like a small catch of them is found, Sora's like staying in the room where everybody is. You know what I'm saying? And like they kind of bring the guns, and Sora's like busy teaching all of the other actresses how to reload.
Nice.
So,
shoot one, hand it off. Shoot one, hand it off.
Exactly.
Love it.
Okay. I wanted to show this before we left. I'm gonna put his picture up on the thing later on, but I just wanted to show Falk's picture.
Oh, he's cute.
He's a cutie.
Nice.
He is a cutie.
Wow.
Handsome little devil.
All right. So that is where we're going to close it. I want to thank everybody who's been in the chat. I'm sorry I was not very responsive tonight. I've been very
Dialed
focused on what
in.
we've been doing. But thank you all for being here. Thank you for coming along with this ride with us. If you are watching on YouTube, please hit the like and subscribe, and definitely leave a comment. Let us know how we're doing, what you think of the story so far. And as always here at Dirty 20, we always close out by asking everybody to, if they cannot be kind to each other, be nice to one another. It's a sometimes tumultuous world that we live in, especially right now. So do your best to ease that for somebody else. So thank you very much, and we will see you next Sunday.
Good night.
Night, y'all.
Bye-bye.
No.